Okay, we are live, although there's no audience. We're just recording. I am Guillermo Escobar Vasquez, and today I am interviewing the one and only Mr. Radical Latino. A lot of people they tend to be very opinionated on you, Radical. A lot of people I've seen tend to really like you or really hate you. And, I'll be honest, I've seen a lot of your content, but most of it prior to me doing research for this interview tended to be listening to you on like live streams where like 15 people would try talking over each other and trying to make a separate point. And like in my personal opinion, I don't even care what the genre is. When you're in one of those YouTube situations like with those live streams where there's like a million people on, it gets super like crazy. People start going at it with each other. It brings out literally like the worst of everybody. So I like this sort of format better where it's just kind of like, I'm talking to you, you're talking to me. So there's a lot of people listening from my audience that have literally no idea who you are. Please introduce yourself, Radical Latino.
Well, thank you for having me on. I go by the name the Radical Latino. I am a podcaster. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm a podcaster. That's how I started with podcasts, and my message usually is for unity between Black and Brown people to unite and fight the system of white supremacy. I've been fortunate enough to be on the top 17 on all Latin podcast list of 60. I've also I've been in certain college lectures already, 4 so far. So I'm kind of patting myself in the back for that one. And also I've been already I've interviewed other intellectuals that are in this activist spectrum, such as Rosa Candela and King Tone, and also many others. So that's basically who I am.
All right, yeah. I mean, being able to speak at universities, that's quite an achievement. Like, that's something I wish I could do. But yeah, I'm
Yeah,
glad you're able to do
in
that.
the short amount of time, I'm actually kind of surprised that I was even reached out or even recommended to speak on a college lecture campus.
May I ask you what sort of things you kind of spoke about real briefly?
Basically on the systematic structures of white supremacy, how it affects Latin people the same way how it affects Black people, but pretty much just stayed in the course of of the Latin community. And mind you, this is all virtual because of COVID or whatever the case
Right,
is.
yeah.
So I spoke on a panel filled with, I think, was it 300 people. So that's basically what I spoke on. The recent one, which was part of BMCC, I actually did a whole lecture. So I just basically gave them a brief background and spoke on those type of basically issues and topics and things of the sort.
Gotcha. So, I've never really was able to pick out through listening to your content. What tends to be like how educated would you say you are? Like, what tends to be the highest level of education you've obtained?
Well, I am a college dropout, so I would probably say the highest education would be high school.
Okay.
But due to the fact that we live in the 21st century, college degrees really don't really mean anything when you have a Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg, and you have a Jeff Bezos, and people of the sort, who pretty much did outstanding and amazing things technology wise without college degrees. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm lucky enough that I managed to, go to school and obtain a history degree, but I learned very quickly that most employers don't care, and I still work outside with, illegal Mexicans anyway. So it is what it is.
listen. When I was younger, I used to work at a cafe, like a restaurant. I was a bus boy, and then oh my god, I got $1 more when I became a runner, for food.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, the amount of master degrees up in that restaurant is outstanding. The amount of people, mind you, these are white folks,
Oh, I'm sure.
who
Yeah.
got master degrees in engineering and education and all this other stuff, who cannot get a career. I'm sorry, excuse me, cannot get a career due to whatever reason, it's outstanding to the point where I even sat back for a while and said, what's the fucking point? When you could learn this anywhere else, or learn this, on YouTube, or learn this from any online course that you could just pay. What's the point? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, I'm not one of those snobs that thinks like I'm better because, I managed to stay and get the degree. Like I've seen, extremely competent people drop out just because, they didn't want to go through the whole, because it's a slog. It's not fun. I totally get it. And you can still very much be very educated in history without having to, like, or in anything else, without having just formally have your little degree. And I think
yeah,
honestly, the degree, because of the student loan programs in which it's kind of just everyone's approved of it, it's putting all of these students in massive amounts of debt when they get out. And then on top of that, it's essentially devaluing the educate, like the actual diplomas, if you will, because it's like the whole point of the diplomas is, the less there are out there, the more valuable your degree is going to be. But if everyone just goes after high school to college to get one, it essentially, in my opinion, becomes the new high school degree. That's kind of how I'm seeing it. Except
yeah,
this time, people are going hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt for their entirety of their lives, and I think that's extremely harmful. And just one particular reason, just of many, in which I personally despise capitalism. And I
yeah.
actually wanted to ask you this because I don't think there's been a lot of people questioning this regarding you, but what tends to be, if you had to sum up, and I'm not trying to look for something super specific, but I mean, would you say you're like a Marxist? Would you say you're a like classical liberal? Would you say that you're or
I'm
just a
uh,
regular liberal,
I'm
like you're
I'm
neoliberal?
I'm neither. I'm neither. I'm not no
Okay.
Marxist. Even though I did read some of Karl Marx's work. I'm neither. I'm not a liberal, nor am I a right winger or nothing like that. I am very moderate. Just because I speak about white supremacy does not mean that I'm a liberal, that I'm on the left or anything like that. I'm very critical on both parties. There's a lot of things that's on the right that I like, and there's a lot of things on the left that I like. So I'm neither. I'm extremely moderate. When I vote independent. So I'm neither one of those things. And the thing is, as much as people like to say, oh, we got to get out of these race boxes, we got to get out of these race boxes, why everything got to be about race? It's so easy to put me in a box of liberal because I speak about white supremacy. You know what I mean? So the hypocrisy kind of like shows its face.
Sure, yeah, but and that's fair. So, I mean, would it be wrong to mischaracterize you in terms of how you view like economics to be, like you're kind of a centrist, you don't really lean particularly one way or the other, you kind of want to evaluate it to see how it goes, and kind of, you believe in I'm guessing you believe in a sort of system that allows for markets, but you want it regulated to a certain degree so that it's not just being predatory on working class people. Would I
Well,
be incorrect?
well, I somewhat. The way I see the market is, first of all, less the more less if that makes any sense, more or less government interference. Is it's a better way for me to say when it comes to economics. The way I see it is that the working class people have been giving the shaft economically, and with the rise of certain um, things like immigration and policies with minimum wage going up, and things like that, and taxes. I did see that the decline on certain middle class families getting declassified now to lower income, or whatever the case is. So um,
Yeah.
I when it comes to that, I'm not gonna say that I'm a socialist when it comes to economics. I wouldn't put myself in a box like that. I'll just say that I'm a free thinker or whatever the case you could probably say when it comes to stuff like that. But economically wise, I don't know if I'm gonna say I'm a socialist or anything like that.
Let me ask you this. Do you think you get along generally more with people who say that they're socialists over like, capitalists or like Republicans?
No.
Okay.
I've gotten along with what used to be my line of work. I got along with capitalists. I got along with a lot of Republicans, believe it or not.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I got along with a few socialists. I didn't get along with the super hardcore liberals, believe it or not. Believe it or not, I did not get along with them. It was like talking to someone with unrealistic point of views. Um, I've uh, pretty much I've gotten along with the gamut of political parties, right, left, in the middle, up, down, I know everything in between.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, you don't like to box yourself in. You're your own man, and you kind of like to. I've noticed you are actually consistent in this when I do listen to some of your interviews, in which kind of like I see most Americans, they tend to like pick their beliefs in like packages, if you will. So like if they generally tend to like vote one way, like they'll just have you can guess their opinion on almost everything else if you catch what I mean. But I've noticed you like yeah, you do tend to change up your opinions on certain things a lot, and it's not just like oh I'm with Team Red or Team Blue, and I'm just going to go at either side and just pick all of those positions. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you don't do that. That's a lot smarter in my opinion.
Well,
Um,
I don't do it as a tactic. I do it because it's me.
well,
You
it's a
know.
smart tactic. I mean, you shouldn't just box yourself in. You should really analyze
Yeah.
how things work.
Yeah.
Now, that's interesting. Okay, so not quite a socialist or a capitalist. You're kind of like in between. I totally get it. I know a lot of people. I would probably fall in on that at a certain degree. But this interview isn't about me. It's about you.
Yeah.
Um, you're free to interview me another day, but not today.
Gotcha.
So we got a ton of things here that we can go over here with quotes and things
Go,
that notes I
go
took.
ahead.
So
Go ahead, bro. Go
this is
ahead.
one I wanted to ask you. So here's how I kind of view America. America is an illegitimate country. I think it's complete garbage. I think it should be completely burned to the ground. I think it is. I think America is the great Satan. I have no
Yeah.
optimism about this country. I don't like it. I want it to be destroyed, and I would prefer, South American hegemony, develops as a result of America being destroyed. But I wanted to
Well,
ask you, what
well,
do you think of America?
well, before I say that, I'll break that
Sure.
down. South America hegemony. What do
Well,
you
I
mean
guess
by
I would
that?
say Hispanic or Latin American
Oh,
hegemony.
well, what do you mean by that?
Sure. So if you want to kind of classify what I kind of push for, I would say that I am a Hispanic or Latino fourth positionist. So this is based on the fourth political theory written by Alexander Dugin of Russia. But there have been several Hispanic or Latino authors that have written their own spin on it and have basically advocated for. So what fourth positionism really is it looks at the 20th century ideologies, the predominant ones, and what were they? One, it was capitalism or liberalism. Two, it was socialism, and then three was fascism. Basically, the fourth political theory says that we should analyze the best aspects and the worst aspects of these three main political theories that dominated in the 20th century, take the bad or get rid of the bad and take the good, and then push for something where it's kind of so. I personally, when it comes to like, I guess, fourth political theory, I believe that when it terms to like how I view, my worldview, but also I believe that, and this isn't something that is obscure. I believe that everything from the American Southwest, Florida, all the way down to basically the tip of Chile and Argentina should be a united confederacy economically, so that we can't be exploited and subjugated by the American empire.
Okay. So pretty much you are aware that American influence economically has decimated South America and all these other so-called third world countries.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Okay.
all you have to do is I highly recommend this book for your audience. It's called Che Guevara: A Revolutionary Life. I love Che Guevara myself personally, but it goes into very much detail in like the 20th century how all of these things that America was doing, just
Yeah.
behind the scenes that most people don't know about. Like, have you ever heard of the United Fruit Company?
I heard of it, but I don't know about it. Can you explain it?
Yeah, so they were a really fucked up group, and it's a corporation that's still around today. In fact, you might even buy shit from them. Like, the most well-known product I can think of that they sell are those like bananas that says like Chipitas or something. I forget what it's called.
Oh, wait, them? Okay.
Them,
Okay.
yes. So
Okay.
yes, for a long time, for many decades, this company, this multinational corporation, was working with the American government to do some crazy fucking shit in subjugating, socialists in Latin America that wanted to, that were nationalists as well, but wanted to break free from American influence and nationalize these exploitative industries. Because these industries, things like United Fruit Company, these people would come to Latin America, basically look for cheap labor. And then if people tried organizing, like union wise or what have you, or if politicians were speaking up against it, they would literally hire like death squads to like murder these sorts of people, right?
Gotcha.
And I'm actually Colombian myself. My parents fled when Pablo Escobar was having his little adventures in the 80s and 90s.
Oh,
And
towards the end of his life, right?
right, exactly. And one major thing about this is how do I put this? So a lot of people don't know this, but Coca-Cola like literally would set up like plants in Colombia, like factories and the
Yeah.
such.
Yeah.
And if people like they would keep tabs on like labor organizers, things like that, and they would like hire paramilitary units to murder them.
Yeah. Yeah. They were original Amazon fulfillment centers. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And that's just, it's just one of many reasons why I just despise America. I just hate it. There was never like a lot of people have this idea of like, America being great maybe in the 1950s. I never viewed
Yeah.
it that way. America was never
Well,
great to me.
well,
It was
you
always
gotta
shit.
you gotta understand. Let me answer your question. But before I answer it, let me just make the statement. You gotta understand marketing. Marketing is extremely effective. Remember, for example, diamonds weren't considered a love item until was it the 1950s when they started marketing to teenage girls in high school. The slogan "Diamonds are forever" wasn't even a thing until they started marketing it to high school, little girls. And within a couple of years, then diamonds became a thing that was viewed as, luxurious and a symbol of love and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Before then, the diamond industry was completely, suffocating, and they were hemorrhaging money left and right, left and right, left and right. So marketing is very, very, very important. And what America did, America made a very, very, very strategic way of making themselves view themselves as number one, the number one, whatever in the world,
Supporters of
and
democracy, yeah.
yeah, the
Democracy.
number one superpower, or whatever the case is. But if you really peel back the layers, dude, we're more fucked up than the most third world countries up in here. So just because we got running water, some pipes, and some toilets doesn't really mean that we're better off than anybody else. If you really go to any other place outside of America, you can even go to certain parts of the Middle East, so even certain parts of Europe. Certain parts of Europe, they're way better off and live better lives with either more or less than most people do in America. So it's a
Yes.
it's a very funny thing. So that's what I'm saying. Marketing is very, very important. If I constantly say that let's just say this is going to be very superficial, but I'm the number one podcaster in the world. If I keep on saying that, right, constantly saying that, nobody's challenging me, right? Every interview I do, nobody challenges me. They actually enjoy it because I keep on saying it, and I start adding ridiculous things to it. I'm the number one podcast in the world because I got this trophy from Podcastistan, and they gave me a number one. You can't verify shit, but I keep on saying I'm the number one, number one, number one. And every fight that I get into, or every debate that I get into, I always come out victorious. That legend is going to keep on creeping up until what I said becomes the truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's
So
the big
marketing,
lie
yeah,
that's you're
marketing
thinking of.
marketing is extremely beneficial, but is also very important to understand. And let me give you one last example before I go on to my answer about America.
I was gonna say real quickly, on that topic, real quick. Speaking of diamonds, like pretty much all the diamonds in the world is owned by like the De Beers jewelers,
Yeah,
and they're based in South Africa and just they like horrific
Oh
mining
yeah,
practices
no, no,
there.
of course, we cutting people's hands off and stuff like that. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
they,
owned by the Rhodes family, I
yeah,
believe
yeah,
too.
they really think they're helping Africa out by exchanging a bucket of diamonds with a sack of rice. So,
Yeah, it's
you know,
disgusting.
so yeah, and the thing is, just one last example. Did you know the Oreo cookie wasn't originally the Oreo cookie, right? The Oreo cookie was actually a carbon copy of this other cookie called hydroxy cookie or whatever the case is. I think I'm butchering the name, but Oreo was a carbon copy. The reason why Oreo cookie actually became a famous staple onto the American psyche is because marketing and the name. And on top of that, they started doing nefarious business practices when it came to high end food grocery stores. For example, they will actually pay off the people that will go in there and give you the layouts of the shelves. They pay these people to actually have Oreo cookies in the front of the cookie aisle and their competitors all the way in the back.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I don't support capitalism, because capitalism, if you break that down, capitalism. Well, who has the power in a capitalist society? It's in the name, the owners of the capital. And most owners of
It's a dog,
capital
yeah, it's a dog
are
eat
like
dog system.
billionaires.
It's a
And
dog eat
like,
dog system,
we don't
yeah.
have real competition in this country because these billionaires can collude with one another, just form de facto monopolies all over the US. But
And you
yeah,
know what's a very perfect example on that? The GameStop stock.
I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying. But yeah,
Perfect,
totally rigged. Yeah.
perfect example on that. Why is that a perfect example for the people in the back? These hedge fund managers who are fucking book. I don't know if I should curse. My bad.
You can curse all you want. I don't care.
All right, fuckity fuck. What was it? These hedge fund managers who were, super loaded. They were not rigging, but they were betting against the GameStop stocks to go down, and they will end up getting billions and billions of dollars. People found out about it, kept on racing the price because they kept on buying it to the point where it took one phone call and all the apps, TD Ameritrade,
Robin Hood, yeah.
Robinhood, all the Cash App, all these apps ended up just folding and saying, you know what? We got to listen to these people because those are the real ones who are running the show. So that showed that all of this shit that we're talking about, it's for nothing. All of
Yeah.
this, capitalism, hey, that's nice. This is for nothing. It's buffoonery. It's bullshit. So when it comes to certain things like that, we got to really, peel back the layers and really look back like, okay, why am I doing this? Why is this marketing strategy telling me to do this? Or why am I thinking this way? Once you get those chains out of your brain, that's when you start thinking, breathing, and seeing the world clearly. Now, let me answer that question. How I see America. I see America not the land of opportunity, but the land of exploit. I see America that it basically gives you some opportunities if it's allowed, but it will exploit the shit out of you if you let it. This place is not for the weak. This place is not for the beautiful and the bashful. This place is for a dog eat dog world. If you have an issue with stepping over people's toes to get what you want, then you're never gonna make it. That's how I see America. I see America as the bully in the back of the class running things, and he's still going to pass the grade because he bullies the teacher for that perfect score. You know what I mean? That's how I see it.
Sure. Let me be a little bit more specific and kind of where I wanted to go. So I'll give you an example. So if you go to like a university campus, you might find you'll find certain people that may agree with what you said for the most part, but they'll say things like, well, the founding fathers, they were men of their time. These were extremely, very liberal people for their time. And the trajectory that they set the country down was ultimately, something that was going to lead to egalitarianism for the rest of, the inhabitants there. I was just curious on what's your take on that, whether you believe that sort of interpretation where these men were much more enlightened compared to, past rulers, or whether you think that
Well, well,
like these people were better than like the monarchists prior.
well,
My question.
the thing about it is, my answer was for America. You know how I see it. was
Yeah,
based on an economic standpoint, economic,
sure.
um, lens. But if we're really going to talk about what I think about the founding forefathers, one, they were not thinking about Latin or Black people, Asians, or other people who turned out being white later on. They weren't thinking about them.
Right.
What they were thinking about their own interest. You got to understand that the elites, they ran away from their own elite class and they started their own elite class somewhere else, to the point where they say, you know what, we could do shit on our own. It's all good. Fuck Britain. You know what I'm saying? And they went to war with them. They end up winning or whatever the case is. The thing is, how I see them, I see them either worse than the elite class of Europe, because they established this country again, not thinking about us. They were thinking about them, and who is them is them white folks. That's who they were thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, America, in my opinion, was really set up to be a Masonic shopping mall. I think that's a very precise way I would put it if I had to really do it. What's interesting is you get some real conflicting personalities when you look into like some of these founding fathers. So, like, I'll give you an example. I'm not sure if you knew this or not, but like Thomas Jefferson, for example, had entire mathematical equation like formulas that he devised on his own to determine how white someone was. And like Benjamin Franklin, for example, he had a system. Well, he didn't really have a system, but he would write down like his opinion on other Europeans a lot, and he would talk about in private how he viewed like German and like Swedish people as being extremely dark skinned and like swarthy, and saying that we need to cut down on like these sorts of people coming here and focus
Yeah,
more on like people from
the
the British Isles.
yeah, I think was it Thomas Jefferson, I believe. What he had like he was having sex with his slaves or whatever the
There's a
case
big
is.
debate on that. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if that's
Yeah,
the case, but it's like
but
really
but he
debated to this
wrote
day.
but
I
he
don't know.
wrote in there's a book called The Letters for Virginia.
Yes, exactly.
He
Yeah.
he wrote one part in that book, that how black folks got low IQ and stuff, and they're disgusting, ugly, uneasy to see or look at or whatever the case is. But yet, his actions didn't reflect his actions didn't reflect his words, because he ended up, again, I don't, again, the debate is it's out there. I believe they proved it, I don't know, but his actions didn't really reflect it, because he kept on having sex with his slaves. The thing is, like, back then, majority of these white immigrants that were coming in here, they weren't viewed as white. They were not viewed as white. They were viewed as second class citizens. But let's not be mistaken, they weren't viewed lower than black folks. So
Of
they
course.
were
Yeah.
they were they were viewed as second class citizens. The Irish, the Italian, to the point where they kept on. They said that, is it the Irish or either one? And they have a very simian face, and they look like Seminoles and all this other
So
stuff.
yeah, you're referring to actually some British racial like theories
Yeah,
that actually came a little
yeah,
bit after that, but I understand what you're
yeah, yeah, yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
yeah. So
Yes.
and mind you, these white folks that came in here, they started working in not in slavery, but they were working in, common working class situations, where they were helping out. They were indentured servants, but at the end of the day, they were giving benefits after their servitude was done. Black folks was never given that, at that time. So, it kind of already reflects on how uh easy it was to be, white at that time, because whenever these indentured servants actually chose to run away from the position that they were in, they would run to another state, change their name, and nobody will even know anything different. So, it shows that the certain benefits that they did have and privileges that they did have, it does show.
Sure, yeah, I totally understand. On average, it's a much better predicament to be in compared to chattel slavery, even though there are definitely horror stories from, people
Yeah.
that were indentured servants as well. But I was going to say, Jefferson himself was very interesting. Like, he believed, and it was not a common belief among his peers, that like his people should mix with the Indians that were there, and that he also believed as well that they should just cut off all immigrants to America just permanently, for the most part, except in very small numbers, and like for the most part, kind of not have it as much as an immigrant country. But then he has contradictory stuff later on. I think even in Virginia documents, I forget where it is he wrote it, where he even talks about how he'd even like to see Islamic communities in America. It's actually very
Yeah.
weird. But these
It,
were very weird people. But
yeah. They again they had contradictory things. At the end of the
right.
day, they stopped any immigration from any non-white countries, but yet kept white immigrants coming in here. Well, for the most part, a certain
Well,
amount of white immigrants, to be
here's
honest.
here's what's interesting, and you actually, I enjoyed the interview you had with believe that guy named Southern Dingo, because you were holding your own pretty well for the most part. I enjoyed listening to that. He wasn't very good at what he was doing. But one thing I was going to say, and one thing in which you stumped him, was the topic of the small hats. And here's
Okay.
what's funny about that situation. So ever since colonial times in the United States, small hats from like Southern Europe and even the Middle East, who like ostensibly did not look like white North Europeans, and like often would probably look like an Arab if you saw them.
Okay.
um, these were considered like very high end, like white people in the United States from the very beginning. There was no question about whether these people are white or not. And it's like these racists, they can't come to terms with the fact that, Jews have always been seen as white. That's just how it is. And like, you don't get to decide, what's white and what isn't. And it's very
Yeah.
comical that they think that, they can pull up like a study showing, oh, well, technically the average small hat is like this percent Middle Eastern, this percent European. That's
Yeah.
not. Here's the thing. I hate that shit because it's not relevant to the real world. If you
Yeah.
go and tell like a cashier, like, hey, my blonde small hat friend next to me who has blue eyes, yeah, he's not white, and I have all of these studies indicating why. She's just going to be like, can you please get away from me?
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
No, I
Like, it's
get you.
just, it's dumb. And
Yeah.
it's,
Well, the reason why it's dumb is because race is not a real thing, dude. It's a social construct. Race is something that was made up. That's why it's stupid. Why you think there's literally now hundreds and hundreds of now classifications, bro? It's a made up thing. So if we're gonna start making shit up, let's start making everything up. You know what I mean? So that's the reason why we're literally trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense. You know?
yeah, I mean, I would say maybe there's like very minor differences between races, but to me, it doesn't matter. Like, these are not super
Yeah.
important things at the end of the day. It is what it is. Obviously, there's going to be some physical differences that are
Listen,
going to
listen.
come from different people.
Even within animals, obviously, there's gonna be some differences with an American dog to a Japanese dog. Yeah, there's gonna be some.
Yeah.
They're still dogs.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
just because they have different height, different color. Their nose is either wider or thinner, whatever the case is. The whole point is they're still dogs. You know what I mean? It doesn't really matter. Obviously, you're gonna have geographical differences within humans, based on where they live, through generations, climate change, blah, 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 blah. The whole point is we're still human beings at the end of the day, and we're trying to literally categorize human beings based on something that we just literally made up, you know?
Yeah, and what's interesting about the concept of whiteness, particularly in the US, I don't want to really discuss it in other countries because it's not really the same thing.
Yeah.
It changes depending on where you go. It's always been a label of convenience. So like, for example, like Southern Dingo, or any of these guys, if you were to tell them like your Italian ancestors weren't white, what would they probably do to combat that? Well, they probably point out the Naturalization Act of 1790, where it basically says to naturalize in the US, you have to be a white man of good character. That's obviously law. Like, we can't dispute that. But here's the thing. Just because you were white on paper does not mean you were just like the Anglos that lived there were just like, oh, my white brother, how are you? That was not how ethnic relations
Not,
worked in the United States.
not at all. Latin people were considered white on paper after the whole Mexican Revolution, but yet we were getting hanged right alongside black people. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
even the white ones that were living in the Southwest. You mean the Mexican American War, right?
Well, yeah, the Mexican
Yeah.
American War,
But
but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, even the white Hispanics were getting lynched if they, did the wrong thing and then pissed these people off. And yeah, you can see these signs, for example, I'm sure you've seen it where it says like no Mexicans, no Spanish, like no
yeah,
dogs. It's like,
yeah.
yeah, that's kind of like that's kind of, and we'll talk about this topic. I think we're going to disagree a little bit, but that's kind of like why I'm not so much as in your camp in terms of like wanting to not unite with the Hispanics that obviously look white, because I think a lot of ways in the United States particularly they have been viewed as just as much as outsiders as like a mestizo, for example. But
Mm.
yeah, we can go over all this stuff. We're gonna have
Yeah,
plenty of
yeah,
time.
no, no, yeah. We'll get over that. Go over that.
Yeah, that's good. I like it's a good viewpoint that you're espousing here, and I'm glad we were able to expand upon that here. So I was kind of just going through some notes, and I just, I find it funny. I glossed over a debate that you were doing. I forget what the guy's name was, but it was on like whether like racism's a thing in the U.S. or not. And
Oh,
it's
okay.
like, what world do you have to live in where you have to like do the mental gymnastics needed to pretend like racism isn't a thing? Like, I personally, I don't cry about it. I don't think it's like, I just think it's to be expected. Like, personally, I know that I am a foreigner in a country that's not made for me, and it's just kind of like I deal with it and I move on. But I don't know how you could honestly like deny that like people aren't racist all the time, and not just white people. Like, I'm not going to say that just white people are racist. I've seen plenty of like non-whites be super racist as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know, do you think these people genuinely believe it when they're arguing against you that racism isn't real, or do you think they have just an ulterior agenda that they're trying to uphold?
No, these are I believe these are people who see racism but always find excuses for them because of their either anti-blackness. So for example, if you see like a George Floyd situation, they'll be like, "Oh, you mean Fentanyl Floyd, the one that was, all drugged up and all this other stuff?" They'll find excuses for that. But if you see the same thing when it comes to their camp, their people, that's when they'll be like, that's when they'll start changing everything up, but still find excuses for that. You know what I mean? And even when they do experience some sort of racism, they'll find excuses for that. So it's just the way it's the way I see it is it's just a way to protect themselves, because either one, they're scared to admit it, that, or it's a shot at their manhood or whatever the case is. Either they're scared to admit it, or they really don't want to talk about it, because the conversation that you have to have with yourself internally to even accept, okay, this is a real thing, I think is going to get to the point where they're going to just, you know, go break a brain cell or something like that. They're going to short circuit themselves because they can't fathom, that they could be also targeted as well.
Yeah, yeah, I totally get where you're coming from here. There was actually something you brought up. I think it was in the interview that you did with Dominican Renaissance. You can correct me if I'm wrong, though, but I liked what you guys had to say there. And I agree. It's you basically said you prefer to like know firsthand if someone's just open, flat out in the open. Like, you prefer an honest guy that's like, yeah, I'm racist, I don't like you, I'd prefer that you leave, over
Yeah,
someone that just plays this game of like, no, 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 no. You see, it's just,
yeah,
it's this and that. I'm in complete agreement, but I mean, I see it all the time, and I feel like a lot of like right wing Hispanics, especially, play this game where like, where like they'll pretend, for example, like Trump wasn't doing super racist shit in order to like get elected. You know what I'm talking about?
yeah, yeah,
And
of course.
it's just
Uh,
like, I don't know how you can do that. Like, I mean, Trump
well,
literally
yeah,
day one called Mexican rapists, and
the
it's
thing
like,
is,
okay.
a lot of people, the thing is, a lot of people think that in order to be a racist, you have to have, a KKK robe on and burning a cross in somebody's lawn, and that's evidence for them to be like, oh shit, you know what I mean? That they're racist, but it's not necessarily like that. You have to, be aware of what these people are saying, break it down and peel back the layers. If someone is saying, I see all black people as crack babies, you don't need enough evidence from there to determine, okay, this person might have some racialized, tendencies, point of views, or whatever the case is. Also, like that's the thing. Like whenever I don't know if you're aware, you probably are, of Chivo. Um,
Oh yes, we'll talk about
yeah,
that. We can talk
yeah.
about him.
So when I'm gonna just mention him real quick before we get to talk about him. When I first came out going after them, I was the first one. I was the
Okay.
first. This is all documented. You could go back to YouTube algorithm, do whatever. I was the first one to go after Chivo, and time again, people close to him, even people close to me. Why are you going at him? Leave him alone. He's not saying that things that's wrong. Why are you calling him a white supremacist and all this other stuff, right? And
Yes.
I'm not gonna put out no names, but they know who they are. Everybody kept on coming to me. Why are you going at him? Leave him alone. You're doing this for views. Da 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 da. Right? He's not racist. You call everybody racist that disagrees with you and all this other bullshit, right? Come the time that he actually went viral. Now everybody and their moms, oh well, I should have seen. I saw that coming. He is a racist. Oh man, and now everybody's making videos, making reactions, and everything. All of that. Now he's a confirmed racist. But when I was doing it before, I was a crazy one. You know what I'm saying? Again, it doesn't take. You don't have to fucking take long for the person to actually admit who they are. You just look at their words, break it down, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I understand. I think Andy's mindset and where he was coming from. I'll be quite honest. I used to be racist as can be, like really, really racist, and it took a while to stop being like that. But I got very racist over initially over the it was the George Zimmerman riots, preceded by the Michael Brown riots, and I was privately saying very similar things to what Mr. Andy was saying,
Uh huh.
during the BLM riots. And yeah, I mean, I don't know how you can really misconstrue that. It's pretty blatant what Andy was doing, and what makes me sad about Andy is, he surrounds himself with these people who, they'll say nice things about him. They'll invite him on their racist podcasts, but at the end of the day, like, they view him as someone that is not fully human. That just, they keep him around like as both like an object of amusement and as like someone that they kind of keep around to sort of like to tell themselves like, look, we have other people that aren't white to like tell us these
Yeah,
things. That, like
listen.
it must
There
be
was a
true.
there was a there was a white supremacist that got OV that went into his program. He told him flat out, "You're not Roman. I'm a real Roman. You're not Roman. You're not even a Spaniard." You know what I'm saying? And again, because we live here in America, these things are pretty, common. So you're gonna be looking pretty silly if you're running around calling yourself either a Roman, calling yourself, I'm white when you look brown as hell. You're gonna look pretty silly adopting these white supremacist ideologies when that does not benefit you, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I totally get it. I'm just saying, like, it just sucks seeing him like that because, he's actually got a large audience. He could actually be organizing and, trying to help out the local Dominican Republic community. But, he's fallen down this trap that I've seen many white and black nationalists fall down. And we can get into like the blacks in America that do this as well. Because I'm not one of these people that only like will criticize whites. I have my fair share of criticism with certain elements of the Black American community too.
Yeah.
And what I would say is they get in this situation where instead of doing productive things, they want to constantly just look at things on the news of what they perceive their in group to be attacked by, like, just isolated criminal stories of like people from, like getting robbed or killed or what have you. And they don't do anything productive. They just get mad over news stories every day. And it just becomes this very toxic environment where they're
Yeah.
just sharing news stories and
Mind you,
reacting and getting mad all the time.
yeah, mind you, I don't know if you saw it, but somebody has a clip out there. I don't know. But I questioned Andy on his motives. After he moved to Dominican Republic and he's doing these live streams, right? I questioned him. I said, "Okay, what is your end game? What's your end game?" And he's like, "Oh, just save money." Okay, save money and do what? At the end of the day, saying nigga, 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 and all this other dumb shit is gonna get to a point like, okay, you're just gonna be a talking head and you're not gonna do anything about it. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
I know
Like
exactly what you're
if
saying.
he not again, I'm not trying to insult him, but if he was smart enough, he could have played the victim card so well. Right when he got fired, he should have went to Dominican Republic, waited a couple of months, said, "Yo, I'm opening up a GoFundMe because these small hats and all these other stuff." Make himself the victim, get a bunch of money, and on top of that, probably open up like buy some land and have people up in there, help build up that land, and then he'll build up a small community. Don't you think that's a little bit more smarter than just getting a goddamn computer, just talking about nigga, nigga, nigga all the time?
Right. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, you're in the Dominican Republic. Why are Black Americans on your mind 24/7? Like that's sort of the thing. Like
Exactly.
I am not on your level in terms of like trying to rep the Black community. To me, it's just not my concern. Like I understand what they've been through. I get it sucks, but me personally, I'm just like, you know, it is what it is. I can't really do anything about it. And I'm not here to be, your PR team, unfortunately, Black Americans. But, I'm fine with working with white or Black Americans on mutually beneficial stuff in the future if there is things that can benefit the Hispanic or Latino community, but only under our terms, I would say. Other than that, I don't really see any point in trying to suck up to people that I think ultimately would just prefer to use us, in my opinion. I know we're going to agree on or disagree on this situation. I'm not trying to make a big
Yeah.
thing about it. But I was actually going to ask you, you know, not just because we see this not just in the white nationalist community, but I've studied Black nationalists a lot, and it becomes the same general thing where they get addicted to what I call outrage porn. So they'll post like a news story about my member of my race got attacked by this foreigner, racial foreigner, and now we need to get super mad, and it's just these people become these people become just kind of like clones of each other in a lot of ways, and they don't even
Yeah.
realize it, which is what's funny. Like, because you have like people have, like in their minds this vision of like Al Sharpton, like anytime anything bad happens, it's like a Black person, he's out there, he's there to make the grift, do all the speeches, get all the money, profit off of the just grievance culture in which he just bitches about it and never plans to like do anything. And then you have the white inverse of this as well, where I'm not sure if you heard of these guys before. I'm sure you probably have. It's called TRS Radio. It's like this. It's the most popular white nationalist podcast pretty much ever that's ever existed. And they do the same thing. They stream every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 2 hours every like day that they stream, which is 3 times a week. And pretty much all they do is just react to stuff like, white people, white people got attacked here, white people are getting attacked here. And it's just like this, what I call white Sharptonism, essentially, where
Yeah.
and here's the thing, they have no plan to actually do anything with the money that they're accumulating from their radio, which makes a lot of fucking money. They just want
Yeah.
to create this situation where it's just a grift, where they don't actually help the poor people that are hurting the most from these white
Yeah.
communities
Yeah.
from this sort of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I do see that there is a different. I'm not saying that there is no similarities. Obviously, there are some similarities when it comes to that, but I do see that there is a stark difference within their way of going about certain things. So, for example, the white nationalists who let's just call it race bait. Let's just say that, right?
So that's what I mean. Yeah, race
Yeah,
bait,
when
sure.
they race bait, when they say, "Look what happened," a white woman got beat up or whatever the case is by a
By
bunch of
Black or
Mexicans.
Hispanic, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of Mexicans, or old lady got robbed by a bunch of black guys. So yeah, they're gonna raise bait. At the end of the day, they're not gonna they're not gonna, like you said, they're not gonna take the money out and actually help out their white community or whatever the case is, or that community that they're exploiting to get the views. But the thing is, this is the stark difference. The difference is when those white people get harmed by X whatever ad non-white person name here, when they get harmed, those people go to jail. They get, they get reprimanded very easily. For the most part, when white folks do that, and I see the black nationalists call it out, for the most part, them white folks don't go to jail that much. They either get slaps on the wrist or they'll get excuses and shit. They'll get the Brock Turner treatment. So that's the stark difference that I do see. I do see the similarities. That yeah, give me money
Well,
for
let me
this
give you an example. Let me give you an
this
example real quick.
DVD and all this other stuff. So I do see that they don't, the black nationalists, they don't do nothing for their community
Let
as
me let me
well.
give you let me give
But
you an example. Like you'll have certain folks like who will do shit, for example, like spend all day talking about how like the Greeks and Romans were black, ancient Egypt were black, the ancient the Indy, like the Aztecs were black, the Mayans
yeah,
were black, the Moors were black, just everyone was, the Chinese were black. I've
yeah,
seen the white version of all of this, including the American Indians as well.
yeah,
That's the sort of parallels I'm talking about, where they're so deracinated and attached from their
the
ethnic,
reality.
from their no, not reality, but like from their actual ethnic roots,
Yeah,
that they have to cling on to just all these past peoples that, even if genetically or physically they even looked similar to you, like for example, let's use this. So a white American, a standard one, maybe a random one, might look similar to that of a Roman of back then. Let's just say that for the argument. Well,
yeah,
he was nothing like you. He lived in a very different time from you, from a
yeah,
time where like race didn't even exist. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And you're
yeah,
trying to like be this Roman when like, that was so long ago that people from the Middle Ages viewed that stuff as like a long
yeah.
fucking time ago.
Mind you, these are the extreme versions that of whatever group that
Right. I
we're
mean, I focus on
speaking of.
the most extreme
Yeah, yeah,
people,
yeah,
because
yeah.
that's
So,
the
so
most exciting
those
for me.
those are the ones that I call the hoteps, that be extreme, 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 like to the point where they were like, toilet paper was black before they turned it white. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
those are the ones that I'm like, okay, I understand why they do it, but in the same time, it's like a little silly, because if these people really get into a debate with somebody with some I don't know, educational knowledge, they'll be looking like a fool. You know what I mean? Do I 100% believe everything that they say? No. Um, is there some of the things that they say is actually legitimate? Yes, but again, I don't believe everything that these extreme people say. Mind you, one of them said that white people got fruit fly DNA. Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, you sit back and you hear this dumb shit,
Well,
and
to be
you're like,
fair, I think all people do have a lot of similar DNA to
yeah,
fruit
yeah,
flies, but
well,
that's for different reasons.
yeah, of course, because like again, this is from somebody that just got enlightened, and they're trying to talk to you.
Oh,
They're like,
okay.
"Do you know that we're all made of star stuff?" Like stupid shit like that. So these are the people like, white people got fruit fly DNA and 10% dog DNA. It's a bunch of dumb shit.
I
So
mean, humans share like 60% of their DNA with bananas. I mean,
yeah, listen, exactly, and they'll take that and run with this. So those extreme versions, yeah, nah, I'm good. I'm not out here, saying that, yo, white folks got, guacamole DNA. You know what I mean? And then I start calling everybody, yo, did you know Cleopatra was actually a Latina? I'm not doing that. So what I like I said, the extreme versions, they do what they want to do. I don't agree with them 100%. Some of their shit be a little wacky to me, even the white ones, but I do understand why, even the opposite, the black and the white, I understand why they do what they do. I get it. Like, it's obvious, you know
right. I mean, look, here's kind of how I would put it in terms of like let's just be honest here. Now, obviously all communities have serious problems in the US. I'm not just going to try and single out black people and claim that they're the only unique people in the situation, but
Yeah,
there is something unique to blacks in that, we're talking about people that have been treated like literal animals for, several centuries. And it's like, you know, it doesn't matter whether like racial science is legit or not. If people are treated like animals for 400 years, guess what? You emancipate them right away, and then just
Yeah.
And on top of that, like give them nothing after it's been after they've been
So let
emancipated.
me yeah.
There's gonna be problems. Like
So let me ask you, if you know that, right, and you just said that you used to be a racist,
yeah,
why do some uh Latin people go on this anti-black rhetoric and mindset? For example, I'm gonna just ask you, why did you go into this racist mindset?
that would probably take like a 3 hour interview, but I can do
Jesus.
this. I can do this. I can be a little simple, but I plan to do a very long interview on this very soon. So it started for me, with the George Zimmerman situation. And let me explain what I mean by that.
Oh, didn't
So,
everything start with George Zimmerman? Yeah, continue.
yeah. So George Zimmerman ostensibly does not look like a white man to me. Now, I get he's half Ashkenazi Jew and he's half Peruvian, which I believe the Peruvian side was probably predominantly American Indian from Peru. So he was, for all intents and purposes, like, his mixture was a mestizo, and he looks like a mestizo I would see anywhere where I live, for the
Yeah,
most part. And it concerned me quite a bit, and it concerned a lot of other Hispanic people like me. The fact that this guy who looks like he could be my cousin is being called white by the news. Like, everyone's calling him white. They're insisting he's a white Hispanic, and once that really started the gears turning for me, and I was like, okay, well, if I'm ever in a situation where I need to defend myself from like a black American and use lethal force, well, they're going to say I'm a white Hispanic and they're going to try to ruin my life and they're going to do all of this stuff. And that was how it all started for me, basically. I think
mm,
that was a horrible thing that occurred. And that's kind of like something that's been going on to not just Hispanics, but other immigrant groups like the Italians, where it's like very quickly in the United States, when you come here, there is this strong societal push to make you identify as either black or white. And that's why I have come to the belief that I reject this dichotomy that they've kind of presented for me here. And I think, ultimately I am a Hispanic or Latino. I can use these terms interchangeably. And I would rather rep my own people and,
yeah,
have a coalition of people of Hispanic descent that can, you know, just operate on their own without having to adhere to or act
yeah,
like this state is legitimate, and then we can just do our own thing. That's kind of what I'm pushing for. And I think that dividing ourselves up by race is something that is going to benefit the white supremacists and the black supremacists the most, because they want us. They want our numbers. They want our blood. A lot of them even just want to mate with us and have kids. It's fine. I mean, I'm not a big, I don't care if you want to have children with, an American. That's not a big deal. But the point is that there is a huge divide because we're here in such numbers, or because we're here in such numbers, they benefit from putting us in a million classifications so that we don't work with each other. And I don't want to do that. Like, I think Hispanics that are Indian, that are black, that are mestizo, that are white, that are Asian, Arab, regardless, we come from a very unique history, from a very unique place that just is very different from North America. And them trying to assign their sorts of like racial systems onto us is a trap that we shouldn't fall for. That's what I personally believe.
yeah. The well, that I do agree. We do come from a very unique place in culture and stuff, but also certain things that I'm gonna disagree with you on is the 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 race classification. Again, we're gonna go back to the same thing that we were talking about before. How race is just it's not a real thing.
Right.
So because that's not a real thing, I believe, which I've been trying to actually get some backing for, and so far I haven't been successful, but I'm gonna still try. I believe that Latin people, we should start classifying ourselves with our own race. Make a race up and start classifying ourselves under that. The reason why is because all the confusion will completely get off. We won't be classified as white or black or Asian or Jewish or whatever the case is. We'll be classified with our own race. That's what I'm striving for here in America. Mind you, all my talking points are just here in America.
Sure. Okay.
And the reason for that is because all of this white Hispanic this, black Afro this, and all this will get eliminated if we classify ourselves under our own race. Why? Because that will give us some political standing and backing when we're talking about our specific issue. Again, we're very people dismiss us, especially politically. They dismiss us because Latin Hispanic is not a race; it's an ethnicity, right? So we fall under different race categories here in America. So when it comes to benefits for, I don't know, Asian people, Latin people will fall under that because there's certain Asians that are Latin. Oh my God, would you look at that, right?
Yeah, I've
If
met some.
Exactly. If there's some, white benefits that go out, oh, well, guess what? There's some white Hispanics, so they fall under that. You know what I mean? So this word Hispanic, since it's an ethnicity, is a broad term that falls under many races, which I do not agree with. Again, we need our own political thing. Now, furthermore, with the white Hispanic thing, George Zimmerman, he said it himself in an interview. He doesn't even consider himself Hispanic. He considers himself white.
Sure, but I
Yeah,
mean, just look at
he
him.
said it. No,
If
no,
he gets pulled, if he
no,
hold on, if he
obviously,
gets pulled
obviously.
over by a cop, like he doesn't give a shit. That's my
Oh no,
point.
no. Listen, obviously, and mind you, this interview that he said that he sees himself as white. This is after the whole media fiasco or whatever the case is. But before that, they were calling him a white Hispanic and stuff. And that's the thing, Latin people get lumped into this white card ever since the introduction of the census when Latin people were being brought over here. We were told to classify ourselves as white to the point that literally every other institution, a hospital, school, police precinct, or whatever the case is, any institution where you need to register yourself, they will they will just, without even question, classify you as white, no matter how dark your skin is, if you let them know that you're a Latino or Latina. You know what I'm saying? And that's something that we shouldn't be allowing. That's not something that we should be okay with, because if I'm being classified as white, where the hell is my white benefits? You know what I'm saying? If we really want to go there.
Right. I mean, personally, I mean, we don't have to. I think we should all agree, in my opinion, to just say we're mestizos, as I think that's honestly the best way to frame
But
it.
but again, that I don't think that will work, because if you're gonna just say we're mestizos, right? There is a definition for that. And again, some of our people are going to go against that, saying that, well, by definition, I'm not a mestizo. I'm so and so and so. You know what I mean? I think.
Sure, but can I read this quote for you? I think
Go
you'll like
ahead.
it.
Go,
I'm
go
not
ahead.
sure if you've.
Go ahead.
So this comes from one of my idols, Ernesto Che Guevara. It says here, "We are one single mestizo race from Mexico to the Magellan Straits. And so, in an attempt to free ourselves from narrow minded provincialism, I propose a toast to Peru and to a united America." That's where I'm at, honestly. I think we are one race. A unique race was created in New Spain. And, I'm not saying everything was beautiful in New Spain. And trust me, it wasn't. But that it happened. That's what it did. And our ethnogenesis is just something that gringos in America simply cannot comprehend. And we are, in a lot of ways, a united mestizo race if you really think about the implications
Yeah.
that he's saying.
What do you mean by New Spain? What's that?
So, like the Spanish Empire.
In Spain or?
No, no, no. Like, well, I mean, I guess it was there in Spain too, but I'm talking about when, you know, uh, when Latin
Latin
America
America?
was all like
Oh, oh, oh,
colonies.
okay. You're calling Latin America New Spain.
Yes, well, before
Oh, got it, got
they
it, got
got
it, got it, got it.
independent from, from
Got it, got
Spain.
it, got it. Okay, okay.
But an
Um,
ethnogenesis was created. A new race was
yeah.
formed.
Yeah, I don't.
That's how I
Well,
see it.
I don't know about calling it New Spain or whatever.
I
What
mean, it
what
doesn't
I'm
matter. That's
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah,
past
yeah.
the
But
past.
I do agree with you when that we should be looking ourselves as a race, because we are a unique people. We are a different type of people. We have a different history, different culture. We do come from different type of people, and with a unique sense of viewing the world. So yeah, we are definitely we are our own race. The fact that certain people want to dismiss that, it's I think it's very dismissive. It's very intentional. I think that these people they want to dismiss it in order to basically just ignore what we have done and what we're bringing to the table.
Yeah, and I agree with that, but here is going to be respectfully my main point of contention when it comes to sort of your idea of uniting, I guess what people would call Hispanic or Latino people, and it primarily comes from stuff like this. And again, I'm not trying to do a gotcha. I'm just want to have like a talk about this. It's kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
like
yeah.
I know when you made that video about white Hispanics and Latinos, you got a lot of shit
Oh,
for that. All right, so let's talk about that for a second
dude,
here.
you know how many emails I've gotten, bro?
Yeah, I mean, I would understand, I'm not trying to be a dick, but like,
No, no,
yeah,
no,
I
I
could
get you.
totally get why you got a lot of people
I,
mad.
I got you. I gotten so many emails. I've gotten at least Jesus, like 50 something DMs. If I'm including Twitter and
Sure,
Instagram,
yeah. Well, here's
bro.
the thing. I don't want to
Dude,
misrepresent you,
there
but in
was
the
there was a
video,
guy. Wait, hold
yeah,
on. There was
sorry.
a guy that called me. That
He called
fucking
you?
called me and left a fucking voicemail, which I think I should. I don't know if I find it. I should play it. This guy is going bananas. He was like, "You fuck! How dare you? How dare you? You fucking fuck!" I'm like, "Whoa, damn! I got you that mad." So it was very interesting seeing how people's reaction was towards that video.
Right, and I don't want to. So I took some notes on the video, and I'm not. Correct
Yeah.
me if I mischaracterize anything. I want to make
Oh
sure
yeah,
I'm
before you start, mind you, I've said these things before on the podcast. The fact that I did it on the video form, it's interesting. It's just interesting. But continue.
Sure, sure. So correct me if I misrepresent your viewpoints at any
Okay.
time. But
Okay.
essentially, you have like this definition where you kind of define white people as people of European descent. And generally speaking, in most cases, you can tell visually just what a white person is.
Yeah.
And you kind of like distinguished what you call light skinned Latinos versus which the term you coined, which I think really was what pissed them off, was
Yeah.
Anglo Latino. And
Anglo.
I totally get why that would upset a lot of them.
Yeah, I did it on purpose.
Right. And we can go into that. But
Yeah.
basically, you came to the conclusion that non racially ambiguous Hispanics or Latinos were Anglo Latinos.
Yes.
Now, I'll let you, explain to the audience why that term Anglo Latino.
Okay. So again, everything that I talk about, I'm not talking about back home. I'm not talking about Latin America, nor am I talking about the Caribbean. I'm just talking about America. America on its own.
Sure.
America. Okay. So the way I see it, mind you, this is my opinion. This doesn't mean that it's set in stone. It doesn't mean that once I say it, it becomes law or anything. This is just my opinion.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So Anglo Latinos are the ones that you cannot distinguish or think about like, wait, what are you? No, you automatically see them as white.
Yeah, it's like
And
that's a
then
white guy until
yeah,
he opens his mouth.
and then until he tells you, oh, by the way, my last name is Vasquez, and you're like,
Or
wait,
he or
what?
he just or he just can't speak English.
It was something like that, right? Those are the Anglo Latinos, and those are the ones that we shouldn't allow on the Latino table
Okay,
at all,
okay, so
at all.
okay,
And
that's harsh, but
that
yeah.
is 100% harsh. But here's why I say it. There's a difference between Anglo Latinos and light skinned Latinos. Like for example, Andy is a light skinned Latino. OG Del Rancho, he's a light skinned Latino. To me, this is how I classify them. Okay.
Right, yeah.
Jennifer Lopez is a light skinned Latina,
Sure.
not Anglo. Canelo, he's an Anglo Latino. Karen Diaz, she is an Anglo Latina, right?
Well,
So
hold on real quick with Canelo, just because I know he comes from a family of
I
mestizos.
understand
Hold on, hold
that.
on. I just
I
want you to
understand
clarify
that.
for the audience. I just want
Yeah,
to make it
yeah,
clear.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So you care more about the general phenotype. So, like, even if your
Yes.
parents are brown and you come out white, you still view them as an Anglo Latino. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yes, because my man looks Irish as shit. So I even funny thing is, you want to hear something crazy? I put Canelo's picture on I think one of these forums. And I told people, be honest, what you think. And people were like, I know he's Mexican, but truth be told, I never saw him as Mexican. He looks Irish. He looks Italian. He looks Irish. He looks Italian. He doesn't look Mexican. So I'm talking about phenotypically.
Right. No mestizo phenotype.
He's Anglo. So the reason why I make that separation and say it so harshly is because here in America, since it's run and dictated by white supremacy, they are more likely to choose white over Latin anything. Cameron Diaz will choose white to fight for whiteness over fighting for whatever she is, Puerto Rican, Cuban, Mexican, whatever. So that's how I differentiate.
You have data on this. The only reason I ask is because I know you're listing your experiences, like, that you lived through, and that's fine. But I've actually experienced quite the opposite in my life. Like, I've actually seen, like, at universities, for example, I find Hispanics that are all about, they're all in all the Latino organizations. They're very passionate about it. But they'll look unambiguously white. And if you ask them, they'll say they're like an Aztec or a Mayan, straight up.
Yeah,
and my point is, there's a lot of them that do that.
No,
too.
Listen, there are exceptions to the rule. Obviously,
I've seen that more often.
What I'm saying is, there are exceptions to the rules, and if they want to be in the table, let them be around us. Sure, that's not a problem. They're allies, but I don't think that we should be fighting for their benefits, because at the end of the day, their benefits is going to be whiteness, regardless however Mayan they want to claim to be. You know what I'm saying? Last time I checked, Mayan doesn't. A Mayan never looked like white, with thin lips and shit like that. So at the end of the day, I'm not gonna say that I'm gonna respect them, but I'm not gonna have them around. You know what I mean? If they're gonna be an ally, I want to see a track record to see if what you're saying actually stands. If it does, then you could be around us. If not, then the door's right there. You know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, but don't you see how it could be extremely offensive to someone if, like, they're like, look, I'm white. I look white, yes, but my parents are brown. I've been raped. Most of my family is brown.
And the hypocrisy of that is, it goes the same way with the darkest Latin person. These people who are coming at me, who did come at me, who's still coming at me, don't want the blackest Amara La Negra, Latin person around them. They would consider them black, and they don't want them around them.
But yet, who's they in the situation?
The people who coming at me, the haters, anybody, if they are in the same situation, if they're going to be bringing people around, for example, Chivo, all right? So Chivo,
okay,
he will not accept nobody black, regardless if they're the same ethnicity.
Yeah,
he won't. So, nobody gets mad at him for that. These same people coming at me, oh my God, you're anti-white,
I don't agree with that. I think that's really dumb. But we can go into that.
No, it's extremely stupid. But where I'm just looking at the hypocrisy of the people that were very, vitriolic when it came to me saying that.
Sure.
It's very hypocritical to these people who go against me because I say that, but totally accept Chivo and accept what he's saying. You know what I'm saying? So it's just hypocritical. It's just a double standard that I'm pointing out. But I do understand how it's a very, very cruel to say, and I understand why a lot of people got a visceral reaction towards it. I totally understand that, and that was meant to get a visceral reaction. But at the end of the day, this is how I feel, and any group that I'm gonna run, that's how I'm gonna run it.
Yeah, I totally get it, man. It is. I get it. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't misconstruing what you were saying at all.
Yeah. Of course, because at the end of the day, again, I'm seeing America how it is set up from the beginning as white supremacy, and because of that, 9 times out of 10, I've seen these non-liberals. They're not even Republican or liberals. They're literally moderate. They will choose whiteness over anything else. So,
well, America's a schizophrenic country, and what I mean by that is, for example, you go to you want to visit like the Cherokee Nation,
Yeah,
these are all very pale white people that don't
yeah,
even look
yeah.
anything like a
Oh,
Native
yeah. All
American.
all I gotta say is all I gotta
People,
ask.
what I'm saying
Yeah,
is people kind of pick and choose their race on what they believe
yeah.
is going to be
All
the most
all I'm gonna
advantageous to them.
all I'm gonna ask you is tell me the last time Louis C.K. ever got a Hispanic role or wanted to be in a Hispanic role. Let me know. Let me know when was the last time Cameron Diaz actually wanted a Latina role. Let me know because all their roles are always white. They're written for white folks, and they don't mind. I've never heard an interview of her saying, "I'm Latina, and God damn it, why is there no roles for me?" You know what I'm saying? Because let's be honest, all Latin people do get portrayed, they get portrayed mostly light skinned. You know what I mean? Not Anglo all the way, but mostly light skinned. I've never seen her nowhere in no interview nor in no movie where she actually portrayed a Latina. So I think what I'm saying stands.
So I get what you're saying here. It's just Hollywood's just such a unrespectable place. It's just like I don't like to use it as the base for like
No,
how we should
I
conduct
get
things.
I get it. I totally understand. But my point is she never raised her voice to talk about it. She never raised her voice to actually say, hey, listen, I'm a Latina. I want these roles too. You know what I'm saying?
Well, to be fair, also, and again, this isn't a huge deal either way for me, but it's like a lot of, to be in a lot of this stuff that is more Spanish theme, you have to be very fluent a lot of times in Spanish. And a lot of these people usually have like a white parent, I've noticed,
No,
and
no, no,
they
well,
can't speak Spanish
not
very.
like no, no. I'm not talking about Spanish themed. I'm talking about being portrayed or played a Latina or any role like West Side Story. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I didn't see nobody, like, oh god damn it, I should have gotten that role. You know what I mean? No, she didn't. In no movie she wanted to get her character rewritten as a Latina. None of that. I've never seen none
I
of
mean,
that.
I'm sure
So
they wouldn't object to it if it was being offered, but I think
they
most of these
wouldn't.
women, here's the
They
thing, women in
wouldn't.
Hollywood are generally speaking extremely exploited people that are just
You're
doing what
right.
they're told,
No,
you know?
you're absolutely right. But again, I have not seen her do it, and I bet you, and I go to your point. She probably would. She probably will get that. But at the end of the day, she hasn't. Why? I could just speculate and go back to my main point is because she's choosing whiteness over what she is. If you're talking, I think you're muted, bro.
Oh, it's my bad, my bad, my bad. Yeah, yeah, I totally get what you're saying for sure. Um,
Yeah.
Not that I agree, but I understand.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to
No,
make an accurate. I'm not trying
I
to
get
turn
you.
this into a debate because I mean I can do debate.
Nah,
I
nah,
debate all
don't
the
worry
time,
about it.
but
Don't worry about
I
it.
like
Yeah.
to do a accurate portrait of what you believe here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mind you, it's just my opinion. This
Right.
doesn't mean that it's facts. It doesn't mean that it's true. It's just
Hmm.
my opinion. And again, I could be wrong with my opinion. That
Well,
doesn't,
I'd rather get your honest opinion than you just saying what you think is gonna
yeah,
make me
exactly.
happiest during an
No, no,
interview.
exactly. And also, I want to go back to one thing that you said. You said black supremacists. Do you really think that black supremacists exist? Do you think they're a thing?
Oh yeah, dude, I've talked to many. I used to be friends with a lot. I recorded a
Really?
podcast with yeah, with a Black Hebrew Israelite once.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't think they're black supremacists necessarily.
Bro, I mean, the guy I interviewed doesn't think that non-blacks are human.
Okay, well, those are the extreme cases.
Well, that's what I dealt with, very extreme people, but they
Yeah,
exist, and I've dealt with them in all
I don't know.
areas.
I wouldn't classify them as black supremacists because, to be honest with you, it's contradictory to the term because
How?
you can't have two supremes.
Well, they
You
don't
know,
think whites are supreme. I mean,
well, it doesn't matter what they think. At the end of the day, they're living in a country that still subjugates them. So, the way I see it is, it's a contradiction to the term. You can't have two supremes. You can only have one. And time again, it's been proven white supremacy has been an ongoing factor. Last time I checked, I never seen a so-called black supremacist shoot up a church, a theater, a synagogue, a school. I've just seen these white supremacists with extreme point of views.
I mean, you'll see some extreme violence with black supremacists. It's not often as talked about, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, when you inculcate yourself in this very hateful environment, like, yeah, people are going to lash out and do really dumb stuff. And I think it's something that black and white gringos should honestly avoid as much as they can, because it's like hate. Being a hateful person, like, literally takes a mental toll on you that I don't wish on
Yeah,
people.
yeah. Okay. Do you also do you believe the thing that Rancho says that black if something goes down, black people will hook up with white people because they're both gringos?
So okay, I know what you're referencing. I never liked these hypothetical race war scenarios. I saw this
Yeah.
shit all the time when I was very racist, and
Yeah.
it's literally just a cope for just racist people who think that something big is going to go down with no effort of their own,
Yeah.
and they're just going to whip out all of their ammunition and firearms, and they're going to somehow just magically end up on top. It's basically it's similar to the concept of like the rapture, for like very Protestant Baptist sorts of people in
Yeah.
the US, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like, but with a very racist twinge to it. Like, there's going to be the
Yeah.
racist rapture, as I call
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just a cope. It's a cope for just being like, very poor people that have nothing, no prospects for themselves. And they think, all they have is their race and their skin color, because they're deracinated people that don't actually understand their ethnic roots. Like, for example, I get along much better with, like, Irish and Italian and Slavic immigrants here, because I get along with the ones that tend to generally reject whiteness and just embrace their ethnicity. Those are
Mm,
the sorts of people I get along with much better.
mm.
And I highly recommend listening to someone called E. Michael Jones. He has a book called The Slaughter of Cities. And it's actually it's well
Yeah, I'm,
documented here.
no, I'm good. I'd rather
Well,
not.
let me explain though. Let me explain whether, because he's got some beliefs I disagree with too. But
No,
in
isn't he an anti-Semite?
I mean, people could make the argument you're one too, based on things I've heard. But I mean, he does say controversial things about the Jews. But here's what I would.
I've never said that the Jews are less people or anything. He
Well, E.
has.
Michael Jones doesn't say that. E.
Yes,
Michael
he
Jones,
does.
no, no,
Yes, he
no. E.
does.
Michael Jones
There's a
makes the.
whole ADL list of the shit that he said, bro.
Dude, I've read his books. Here's the thing. He
Uh huh.
believes that Jews ultimately are people that are the way they are because they
Yeah.
rejected Christ, and he wishes to convert them into Catholicism.
Okay.
You can agree or disagree with that, but he rejects the racialist viewpoint espoused
Got
by
it.
people like Adolf Hitler. He wants these people to be Catholic so that he believes that they'll change their behavior as a result of that. I mean, here's
Got
the
it.
thing also. I could also argue Karl Marx was an anti-Semite, like, based on
Yeah.
all
Of
of the
course. Of
same
course.
logic.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
Some of the things that he said, especially outside of economics. Yeah, of course.
But my point is, with Slaughter of Cities, though, was whether you agree with the author or not, whether you like him, he cites in a lot of very, like, ways that you can't deny. He proves that ethnic Catholic neighborhoods in the United States, filled with, like, Irishmen, Polishmen, Lithuanians, Italians, these people were, as a result of central economic planning and direct orders from the government in terms of, like, the GI Bill and things like that, they were moved out of these neighborhoods that were very ethnically cohesive and very religious, and they were moved into the suburbs where they lost their ethnic identity, stopped going to church, and became generic white people. And once they became generic white people with no real identity, no ethnic roots, that's when it became super easy for the Anglos and their collaborators, the small hats, to just dominate over the rest of the whites that just have no. Now they're just white people and they have no ethnic sense of themselves, and these are the easiest people to rule over, which is why I'm not a fan of heavy racial identity politics, because, like, I think it's very easy to trick people if all that they're focused on is, like, what their race is. I'm not
Yeah,
saying race
I
isn't important, but
and
it's like I don't want it to be
yeah,
everything.
I don't believe in the whole religion angle that you have to live by a certain code of conduct and this is what you got to live by. This is what rules you because if you don't, then you'll get controlled. I feel like it's a very weak-minded approach, very weak-minded thing. But again, it's just my opinion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's not. Again, it's not set in stone. So
Also, by the way, regarding the topic of the ADL, I didn't know if you knew this or not. Do you know how the ADL started?
truth be told, no, I don't.
So you might have heard of Leo Frank. Does that ring any bells?
Yes.
Okay. So the ADL was started as an organization to restore the honor of Leo Frank. And what Leo Frank essentially did was he was a factory owner in Georgia. It was a pencil factory to be exact. There were whites and blacks that worked in his factory. They were for the most part all poor. He was a very rich man.
Yeah.
Um, and what happened was he raped and murdered a 12-year-old girl that happened to be working for him at this factory. And to make matters worse, Leo Frank, he tried to blame, his murder that he did, murder and rape, on his black bodyguard. And
Wow.
yes, his black bodyguard. Now, here's what's incredible about this court case about Leo Frank. And it went all the way to the Supreme Court, by the way.
Really?
Well, yeah, what's crazy about the Leo Frank trial is that this black man who was working and was blamed by Leo Frank for this crime was being interrogated for 8 hours by the state's top prosecutor, and they couldn't find a hole in his story. He had such a compelling and believable story, the black bodyguard, that even in the segregated South, and I believe before even around like 1910, I believe is when this happened. The prosecutor and like the court apparatus was like, we can't try this guy. We can't continue trial with this guy. Like, he's literally, there's no way that this guy did it. And then what did Leo Frank do after that? And by the way, he had a team of like the top lawyers in the country helping him out with his case. Yeah. Well, he blamed it on another one of his black workers.
Wow.
This guy got, the same 8-hour interrogation, mind you, from like, an extremely smart prosecutor from Georgia. Nothing. Eventually, they had to come to the conclusion that Leo Frank was the top suspect, and yeah, they
had to. They had to.
No, like they want. Trust me, because here's what's crazy about this: Leo Frank, if you read the court documents, his lawyers were appealing directly to white supremacy in order to try to get him off during the entire case.
Oh, shit.
His lawyers were using the N-word. Every other sentence were basically saying that these bodyguards can't be trusted, and that Leo Frank is a good white Jewish man of the book, and that Jews were held in very high regard in the South back then. They weren't seen as these non-white people, which pisses off white nationalists when you tell them that. Yeah. But the evidence was so compelling, so powerful that they eventually found him completely guilty, and he was given the death penalty. Eventually, the governor had to be bribed by his friends to basically commute his sentence, which was so he could just get out. And after the governor signed this pardon, he was about to be commuted when a mob of, I believe, Klansmen came. And they lynched Leo Frank, and I believe he became like that was a huge moment. Like this guy tried to blame two black guys and ended up getting lynched by the mob instead. But my point is, the ADL was founded to defend this man's honor, and they defend this man's honor to this day. Like, they will tell you straight up, those black guys did it if you ask them. See, that's what's messed up about this sort of stuff. It's like we look to groups like the ADL for what's supposed to be right and wrong and who's racist and who isn't, when these people don't check themselves. These people view themselves as better than everyone else.
There's even, I believe, a Jewish gang, believe it or not. There's a Jewish gang, I forgot where. They go into some anti-black, anti-Latin, rhetoric themselves. So yeah, I know.
Not only that, but I mean, you've probably seen in New York City where, a lot of these Jews, they have like religious police, and they will be extremely ruthless towards people that they don't view as their own kind.
Listen, I got stopped, like, because I drive, so I got stopped in Brooklyn in one of these Jewish neighborhoods by one of those police.
The Shamrem, the religious.
Because I was there at 11 o'clock at night, and I didn't seem like somebody that would be around there. I'm like, bro, I'm just passing by. I'm I got my GPS on. I gotta just take the highway, and they saw my GPS and they let me go. But imagine if I'm just cruising by because I want to cruise by. You know what I'm saying? So
I'm not sure if you heard of this. You probably remember the Crown Heights riot? Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah, because a Jewish dude ran over a 10-year-old black kid and stuff like that, and they didn't find him guilty.
No, 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 no. It was worse than that.
Oh, my bad. Then that's another one. Oh shit.
So there was, I believe, a someone hit, like, basically there was something really bad that occurred regarding a collision with an automobile, and a black kid was hurt very badly. Now here's where the scandal really happened. What made the riots occur, and why I think the riots were justified, if you ask me, which was essentially what occurred was so they don't just have religious police; they have religious ambulances too, right? So the religious ambulance came and they were like helping. So it was a Jewish driver that hit the black kid. The Jewish driver was fine. But here's the thing, the Jewish police came and they're just like completely just inspecting him.
That's what I meant. That's what I
Like
meant.
they literally would not touch the black kid. They were like,
Yeah,
you
they
cannot
took
touch this
yeah,
kid
yeah, they
because he's
took
not a
they
Jew, and like we don't touch non-Jews.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, they took the Jewish dude to the hospital and left the black
He
kid
was
to die.
fine.
Yeah,
They could have
yeah,
operated on him and saved him. Like they had, the
yeah,
tools that they needed to. But that's what I'm talking about. And again, this isn't every Jew in the world. The average like normal Jewish shopkeeper who just isn't like a Hasidic Jew is not conspiring to like deny healthcare services to people just because they're not Jewish. Like that's
yeah.
not how
And
this
and
works.
and again, I don't see Jewish people as their own. I see them as white. Either way, I
Well, I mean,
see.
there's other Jews though that aren't white. That's the thing.
Well, yeah, I see the Jewish people as white because Jewish is just a religion. It's not a race. So you
I'd
can
say
be
it's an
you can
ethno religion, honestly, but I get what you mean.
yeah, like I you can be black, Chinese, white, alien or whatever the case is, and still be Jewish. So I don't necessarily do the religion thing.
But
I still
to be fair though, the overwhelming majority of Jews on the planet consist of like four or three ethnic, three main groups. Now, I get there's exceptions, but generally
yeah
speaking, like you're for the most part, like 90 some percent of Jews on the earth and in Israel are like they're either Ashkenazi, they're Sephardic, they're Mizrahi, or they are like Ethiopia. Now, there's obviously more, but it's like that's the overwhelming majority of Jews that tend to make up the just the entire world Judaism, I guess.
yeah. Hmm.
So I would say it is kind of like ethnic based, especially because a lot of them mix with each other as well. Like
Yeah.
the Sephardic Jews, a lot of them are brown, but they mix with Ashkenazis. And what's interesting about history, specifically, is a lot of people like Jared Taylor, who I despise that man, but he props up Ashkenazi Jews. He loves them. He says they're the best. He says they got the highest IQ in the world. They're so smart. All of this stuff. They're the best. That's what Jared Taylor
Yeah.
does.
Yeah, and Jared Taylor thinks that black and Hispanics have low. I'm sorry, Latin people have low IQ.
Sure. I
Yeah,
mean that's what he thinks. But my point
yeah,
is that here's the thing: for most of European history, at least recent history, from what I'm referring to, Ashkenazi Jews weren't like the guys in charge. Like they weren't the ones who were extremely successful. It was actually
yeah,
the Sephardic Jews. Like the Sephardic Jews, for example, in like under Islamic Spain, were very powerful, very well off. In fact, they were so powerful, especially like in the Ottoman Empire as well, and in like Holland. They were so powerful that Ashkenazi Jews, who were pale and white compared to these like very more darker Jews, they would often change their names and try to pass themselves on, like pan on purposely to pass themselves off as Sephardic Jews because that's what was viewed as being like the better status Jew at the
yeah.
time. So this shows how like people will even pretend that they're darker racially
Now
speaking if it's advantageous to
let
them.
me ask you something. Do you believe in the jam culture myth?
So what do you mean? Like what do you mean by
Do you believe in jam culture?
do I believe in it? What
Yeah.
that like there is a
Is it
there.
that if it exists or whatever the case is, do you believe in it?
So are we defining it as like a
I'm
coalition, if you will, of I
No,
just want to
no,
make sure I
I
have the
don't,
right.
I don't know whatever Rancho classifies it because Rancho classifies it as a Jewish Anglo-Masonic. So what I'm asking is, do you also believe in that too?
Yeah, there's I mean I'm not just completely endorsing the thing because that's what he does, but let me say this. I mean, yeah, historically in the United States, there has been a very strong connection between the Anglo people and the Jewish people,
Yeah.
and you know, and through Freemasonry, this was a way historically in which, you know, this alliance was able to be formed after
Yeah.
some of the horrific wars that occurred in Europe. You know, Freemasonry, a lot of people viewed that as a way to try and prevent, like, you know, future like religious wars. And you know, Jews and Anglo people were overly represented in Freemasonry, and they still are. And yeah, I would say, generally speaking, that, you know, you can look that there's a very powerful Jewish elite, there's a very powerful Anglo elite in America, and a lot of these people all meet up at, you know, the same sort of like Freemasonic lodges that have been around forever. And you know, blacks have their own Freemason lodges as well, on top of all this, which is interesting. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's the term I would necessarily go with, but yeah, there's a powerful Jewish and British elite that kind of like do work together in America. I
Yeah.
mean, that's
Yeah.
undeniable.
I don't know. I necessarily don't believe 100% of this Jewish conspiracy thing. I don't
I
believe
don't think I'm saying anything that's conspiratorial. It's just like Jews are a powerful ethnic group that,
no,
you know,
no,
happen
no.
to.
Well, no. The reason why I call it a conspiracy is because this is, something I've always heard in other circles, like, the Jewish control everything. Oh, you're a Jew, and the South Dingles of the
Well,
world.
Southern Dingo called me a Jew,
Yeah.
by the way. Like, he says I'm
Oh,
Jewish.
you too, my Jewish brother. Where have you been? You want to hear something funny? He called me a black Jew. I think that makes it. I think that makes it worse. I don't know. Does it make it worse? I don't know. So
To the white
apparently,
supremacists, yeah, that would be a bit worse.
yeah, I think that's so.
'Cause
Apparently,
they hate
according,
Jews and blacks are who they like despise
yeah.
the
So
most, generally
so
speaking. So
according to
this is
him,
like a mix, yeah.
so
Jamal
according
Ginsburg.
so according to him, this is really funny. According to him, I'm a black Jew, you're a Jew, Rancho's a Jew,
We're all
and
Jews,
yeah.
yeah.
So, dude, yo, I didn't know that we run the world. That's funny. Holy shit! When were you gonna let me into the meetings, man?
Yeah, I mean, I used to have very kind of cringy, like very over conspiratorial ideas of Jews, and you know, it took a long time for me to kind of like view it in a less emotional way and just more objectively. And personally kind of came to the conclusion that, you know, I don't dislike the average Jew that just, you know, is just living a normal life, and like maybe he has like a law firm and just, you know, just does what he does to make a living. Like, that's fine. I mean, I personally tend to dislike the more Zionist elements of the Jewish community
Okay.
that tend to,
Yeah.
you know, that believe that they have a right to, you know, do horrible things to Palestinians
Yeah.
because of what happened in World War II. And it's
Yeah. Of
just
course.
like,
Of course. Of course. Yeah.
two wrongs don't make a right, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know,
I.
yes, you had it bad in Germany, but you should not be, you know,
Yeah.
kicking Palestinians out of their homes.
Again, like, the reason why I call it, again, like I explained it, the reason why I call it conspiracy is because the southern dingoes of the
They
world.
think everyone's a Jew. They think Jews run
Yeah,
everything. They think Jews are
that
invincible.
that's the reason why I call it a conspiracy. I don't necessarily believe the jam culture, whatever thing, Masonic. I don't really believe in that. If you if you really want to put me on a corner, I probably would say that's just other ways of saying white supremacy, but I don't know, that could be debated.
Well, I would argue that just historically in America, Jews have very much been just a part of white supremacy. Like, it's just undeniable. There's never been a point where any of these people that had substantial power in the U.S. were saying that Jews aren't white and we need to
Yeah.
oppress them. Like, Jews have just always been viewed as, you know, people of the book, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
by
yeah.
very fellow Semitic Protestants. But here's the thing: people like these racists like Southern Dingo, they like have this over conspiratorial idea of how Jews are, to the point where like it's almost flattering to the Jews, where it's like basically you're acting like these are godlike people that like are invincible. You know, they're just so smart,
There's
nothing, they can't
there,
be beaten.
and
Like, I
there's
like to
one thing
humanize them.
and there's one thing that somebody sent me a clip of Rancho speaking with OV, I believe. And Rancho said something very interesting, which I was like, "Whoa, that was a good angle." He asked OV if he's superior, why does he care so much about the Jews? Why are they so powerful and whites are the superior ones? You know what I mean? And OV couldn't answer that, which kind of goes back to the discussion I had with Southern Dingo. At the end of the day, he calls everybody a Jew.
Right.
So to him, he sees himself as superior, but he sees that whites are being attacked or whatever the case is. So if he's superior, then why is, you know what I mean? Why is he seeing Jews as superior as well? It doesn't compute to me.
Well, from luckily I have experience understanding how these people operate. Essentially, a lot of these people, and they're not going to admit it unless they're behind closed doors. A lot of these people are only resentful of Jews because it's envy. They wish they could be like Jews. Like, honestly, a lot of them wish like that they could have their own Israel where they could just ethnically cleanse other people that they view as like not being human or not equal to them.
Yeah.
And they're just jealous that they're no longer being allowed a seat at the table in the same way they used to be in the
Okay,
past.
okay, all
Does
right.
that make sense to you?
Gotcha. All right. I see. I see that. Okay.
And that's the thing, like a lot of these racist a lot of them are only upset at the system at America because they, working class white people aren't receiving the same benefits in which they tangibly received when America was a lot more prosperous in the past. Because now that they're starting to be more on the bottom end, and that they're starting to get replaced, especially like the middle and upper classes, by like immigrants from places like China and India. Now all of a sudden, they're extremely they're second thinking whether America is actually for them or not. Do you get what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
No, no, of course. So I was gonna ask you. So based on your research on me, what are your conclusion on me based on your research and the conversation me and you are having now?
Oh man. So it's hard to say. I mean, we really can we answer that more in the end? Because I feel like
Okay.
there's still a lot more to go
No
over.
problem. Let's run it by. Let's go.
Cool. Give me like 90 seconds. I just need to use the bathroom real quick.
Go ahead. Do your thing, bro.
Okay, I am back. Thanks for waiting patiently. Yeah, so yeah, we can go over what I think of you, but I still think there's a lot we can talk about, and I think we've been vibing quite well during this podcast, to be honest.
Oh, whoa! I did not know you were talking. I'm sorry. What's up?
Oh, you're fine. No, no, no. Basically, I was just saying that I don't think it's fair for me to say my overall conclusion when I feel like there's so much more I want to
No, no,
know.
no, yeah, no, no. Of course, of course. Let's run it down. Let's run it down.
Absolutely. This is going to go on probably for a little bit, just being honest, but it's going to
All right, cool.
it's going to make for very good audio. I think both of
I
our
got
audience is going to like it.
gotcha. Go ahead.
Okay, so I was just curious. Again, this was something that I looked into when I was taking notes of you. So your concept of like Latin people, and again, if I mischaracterize, just interrupt at any time.
Okay.
But your characterization in which you like to define Latin people is people who have like a history of being colonized by Iberians who tend to be like mixed race mestizos, mulattoes, maybe pure black, maybe pure Indian. Would that be fair to say?
No, no.
No? Okay, then I got that wrong. What did I get wrong?
Uh, what I classify a Latin person is basically somebody that speaks Spanish or that has cultural connections to the land that they or their parents come from. That's who I classify as a Latin person. Necessarily the whole Spanish thing, that's a iffy thing because there's a lot of Latin people that I'm actually running into that don't speak Spanish. So when I'm like, "Oh, cómo tal," they like, "Qué?" You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they like, what? And I can have like, I'm trying to have like a mutual conversation so we could connect a little bit more. And obviously that doesn't get received 100%. So um that's what I define what a Latin person is, and some cultural roots that some of us share and stuff, and the fact that we've been also uh, forced into a certain religion type of practice.
So
That's what I
Catholicism
think.
is what you're referring to, right?
Yeah, Catholicism is something that was forced upon us.
See, it's very interesting. I grew up very Catholic, attending Catholic school for most of my early years. I used to be very devoutly religious till around like age 13, right? That's
Yeah,
when I kind of became a huge atheist. And honestly, I'm kind of glad I got out of it and I'm starting to, gain my faith back again. But
yeah.
my point is, though, is, there was something that influenced me a lot. And it was, I was actually there was this guy named Trujillo who has this podcast.
You mean Trujillo? No, let me
Tru-
stop. I'm just playing. I'm
Actually, no, no,
playing.
no. It's not Trujillo. Actually, I'm thinking of the wrong person. His name's Tercio. Tercio's his name.
Okay.
He used to have a podcast on this one racist site until he finally realized racism's stupid and started making his own Hispanic podcast in Spanish. But basically, he was the kind of person who introduced the concept to me of Catholic atheism to me. And
Catholic atheism. Okay. Okay.
yeah, it's a thing, and I found out about it because of him. He's very good at what he does in terms of digging up like very cool nuggets of like Hispanic history, including in
Yeah, yeah,
Mexico.
yeah,
So
yeah.
Catholic atheism as a religion or as a philosophical thought originated by a Mexican intellectual, believe it or not, and
Okay.
this was around a time after they had gained independence from Spain, and he came to the conclusion that despite the fact that he was atheist, he believed that Catholicism played an extremely important role in the ethnogenesis of, Hispanic Americans, and that, it's something that overall provides a necessary force of good for Hispanic people, especially in Mexico specifically, and that he believed that abandoning, the church and embracing secular values was a slippery slope that was going to lead to things that would, materially even negatively impact atheists who want the best for Mexico. So his theory, or what he was proposing, was that if you're an atheist in Mexico, you should respect the Catholic Church and you should still push for as much Catholic power in Mexico, because without a strong Catholic stronghold, without Mexico being a strong Catholic stronghold, you're going to get like people from North America, outsiders, trying to push Mexico in a more Anglo direction, which is what happened. And we had like the Cristero Wars as a result of, that sort of like meddling that occurred. And, it was a very interesting viewpoint that I think started to change me. I mean, what do you think of the idea that, humans aren't meant to be atheists? Like, we are meant to be religious people. And when we start pushing for things like atheism, that it's ultimately just not going to be healthy for us, even if personally you believe it's real or not.
Whoa, that's a really yeah, that's a really physiological, metaphysical way of going about things. Jesus Christ. Well, if you look at the stars, no. The in my opinion, nobody should be religious whatsoever. The reason why I believe some of us do become religious is based on not knowing, the unknown, and the fact that really, in my opinion,
Sure. Yeah.
what comes after death, we don't know. So that scares us, as human beings, because we have
Yeah.
a level of consciousness that really puts us in a place outside of animals where we are aware of us in a three-dimensional space, and we're aware that, okay, after life, what comes after? So that scares us. So religion is something that I believe we created in order to answer that, so we could feel good about ourselves. I got many theories. I believe the form of religion took place very early on in human evolution, where uh, people might have associated one outcome from a action. So for example, if people were dancing a certain way and then it starts raining, they'll call that the rain dance, and they'll always dance like that until it starts raining. So, they're gonna be in a constant place of confirmation bias, you know, associating a certain action with a reaction. So that's how I believe religion evolved in the human psyche, and then we started to put humanoid type of figures in cave walls or whatever the case is, to basically depict the sun, the moon, or whatever. And then later on it started evolving with modern society. So again, I am not a religious person. I don't believe that humans need to be religious. The thing is, the fact that we lack a sense of leadership, and we do need leaders everywhere we go, because we wouldn't know what to do. Let's look at every institution that we've been in. School, we have a leader, which is our teacher. A job, we have a leader, which is our boss. Home, we got a leader, which is our parents. We always looking up to somebody, always looking up to somebody. So what do our leaders look up to? And when we see that as, oh, they're looking at a deity with overarching power, which they have never proved. But how can you prove something which is faith based? Then of course they're gonna start believing and thinking that, okay, this is definitely something that I need to do. So personally, again, I don't believe in religion. I don't believe in a higher deity.
Sure.
I am spiritual. I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. The reason why I say I am spiritual is because I did grow up in the church. I grew up Pentecostal, you know.
I actually
Um,
want to ask you about that, but yeah, we
yeah,
keep going.
with the very traditional church. The women can't wear makeup or pants. They gotta wear skirts.
Yeah,
They gotta be separated. Caballeros y las damas. You know what I'm saying? So I grew up in that type of environment, and I did see things. I seen things that you can't explain scientifically. You can't
sure,
explain
yeah.
scientifically whatsoever. So it'll be foolish of me to say that spiritually there is nothing going on. That's foolish of me to say, but in the same time, there's other things that I did find out during research and stuff where that might be explainable. You know what I mean? But scientifically, that's under the arc of unexplainable. So that's what my answer would be.
Sure. That I totally I've been in a similar mindset to that. So I totally understand where you're coming from. If I had to ask you this, I think this would be an interesting question. In terms of Hispanic or Latin America in general, my question for you is, what is the nicest thing you can say about Catholicism and its effect that it had on our people, since like the 1400s?
I'll say that the nicest thing I'll say that it probably gave us a sense of um order. I'll probably say, don't really quote me on that. That's just me
Sure, but no, I get
That's
what you
just
mean.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's just me speculating.
No, it's fact. I mean, there is definite order whenever you have, an established religion where here are
Yeah,
all the rules. There is no
yeah,
like,
that's
yeah.
that's that's what I'll say. It gave us a sense of order. Again,
Let me ask you this: do you think in certain ways it was better, you know, to unite all of the people of Hispanic America under one religion instead of having people with like a million different religions and possibly getting in lots of like, potential quarrels in the future. If like, for example, all the Indians just kept their old gods and they all were just still kept beefing with each other, along with beefing with the Spanish people and mestizos as well that were Catholic.
Well, the Indians and the Africans that was brought in here, they end up beefing with the Spanish anyway, regardless of religion.
Right,
So
right. But do you think it would have exacerbated things further if they were still
no,
fervently believing in
actually,
their beliefs?
no, I don't really think so. If they were still living in those, believing in those beliefs, and they refuse to basically kowtow to the Spanish, I don't think that we'll have the type of conversation that we're having right now. They'll probably will fight back. They'll be like another Haiti. They'll fight back and they'll use their religion as a starting point for a revolution. So I don't necessarily think that would be the case. They wouldn't live harmonious with the Spanish or nor with anybody else that's not part of their tribe. They'll definitely they'll start something. I'm not saying that um the Spanish did everything good. Again, this is the type of people that brought in a religion and a language that was forced upon our people. So, you know,
Right. I definitely get what you're saying there. I'm not saying I agree, but I understand definitely where you stand on there. Now, I
yeah,
wanted to ask you briefly on the Pentecostal Christian household that because
yes,
that's very unique. I mean to be quite honest, generally speaking, I associate Hispanic and Latin Americans with if they're not devout Catholics themselves, to at least be culturally Catholic or Orthodox Christian is what that seemed to be the general trend. My question for you is, if why was your family Pentecostal, and was this a result of like American missionaries coming to the Dominican Republic or Ecuador and trying to convert you to these faiths, or your family, or whoever your
no,
ancestors were?
so to for my mom's side, right? Um, she was born Catholic. She became Pentecostal when I believe she said she experienced something. I forgot what it was. She experienced something negative. Spiritually, she experienced something spiritually negative in her lifetime when she stepped away from the Catholic Church, and when she went back to the Catholic Church, she didn't feel right for some reason. So she went with a friend to una iglesia pentecostal that wasn't far away from the Catholic Church, and she felt more accepted there, or something like that. Like spiritually, she felt fine, and then that's when she became a Pentecostal. And when she got, I believe, the opportunity to come to America, she met my dad in the church, in the Pentecostal church, and that's how they met. Um, and they basically, how can I say, they actually uh, they both decided to raise the family based on the Pentecostal beliefs in our family.
And were they in America when this took place, or was this in?
No, this was already in America.
Okay,
My dad actually grew up Pentecostal in Dominican Republic. He was already Pentecostal. The thing is,
so was he? He wasn't influenced by preachers though from the
no,
West, right?
his parents were. His parents, I believe, were.
Okay, so that's something I want to touch on
Yeah,
really
yeah.
because
For what I could remember, I believe that the local church, something happened to the local church or whatever,
yeah,
and they got approached by American missionaries, and that's when they got I believe I'm gonna say converted. I'll say
sure.
converted to Pentecostalism.
Do you know
And
approximately what year this may, just like
oh,
maybe what
this is
decade it
this
took place
is
in?
like the 40s,
Okay, yeah, okay.
40s, 40s, late 40s, maybe early 50s. I'm gonna say. Um,
Gotcha.
mind you, my grandparents, which is my father's parents, so in Dominican Republic. So I'll say around that time. I think that's the time when America was there, right? I believe. Oh no.
And what year? Sorry, you cut out for me.
I said I believe that's the time America was there. I'm
What year you said?
late 40s, early 50s.
1840s. You said.
No, late 1940s.
Oh, what was the question regarding America?
Uh,
Sorry.
that the reason why I'm saying those missionaries approached my grandparents, I'm gonna
Uh huh.
say, is because I think that's the time America had their claws in Dominican Republic, I believe. Or no, I could be mistaken.
I'm not sure when the exact time was, but generally speaking, it seems like the Spanish American War was America's way of, essentially taking Cuba, Puerto Rico, and
Yeah,
the Philippines from
my,
Spain and importing all
yeah,
of these very different cultural values on these people
yeah,
that they just weren't used to.
yeah. Mind you, my grandparents became Bentecotal when late in their life, and then they had my dad. Mind you, he was like what, number 6 out of 9 kids that they had, so you could probably imagine. But yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Um, the only thing that I wanted to ask you regarding this is, this is something that I personally find very disgusting and I despise it. And here's why. It's the hubris that these people have. The fact that they're willing to go to war with Spain, take all of these islands that, were a part of the Spanish Empire. And then they're going, oh, guess what, people? You're not real Christians. We're going to go we're going to use taxpayer money to subsidize these people to come to this place, that has been Catholic for centuries. And we're gonna, bring real Christianity to you. Like, that's something I really, really freaking hate when I hear of these Christianaries, getting killed by like Indian tribes in which they try to do this. A smile just goes on my face. Like, I really don't care when it happens. And my question is, do you approve of, American, the American system using their foreign policy budget to mass evangelicalize Hispanic Americans into these new forms of Protestantism that just are not the same as Catholicism, and that is intentionally going to create in the future a social religious rift between Hispanic, Hispanic and Latin people that live in these countries that just didn't exist before. I think that is horrible, and that should not be allowed.
um Again, I don't agree with any form of, you know um control that comes from an outside force and forcing the group of people in that place to adopt their ideology. I don't agree with it. So to answer your question, I don't agree with it when it came to the Spanish, nor do I agree with it when it came to America. I think it's very, like you said, very disgusting and something that shouldn't have happened at all. We should have at least fought for it. But yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'm just glad you have that. I think that's a good opinion to have. It's always great when you agree with me.
Yeah. Okay. That's funny.
Yeah. So I want to ask you this question, and it's gonna lead up to an important kind of like point I want to make, and I
Okay.
hope you appreciate it, even though I know you're gonna kind of disagree with me. But here's
Okay.
my question.
What's up?
So this is regarding like the conquest of Mexico, which I've been doing a lot of like reading on that lately.
Okay.
Fascinating stuff. But what was it that the Aztecs did, in your opinion, that made the Spanish Empire seem like a superior alternative to many of the Indian tribes that were already residing in Mexico after, people like Hernan Cortez proposed an alliance with them? I'm just curious as why you believe, many of these tribes decided on their own volition to, use the Spanish Empire to settle their scores with the Aztecs.
Well, because they were tricked by Cortez, I believe, right? So Cortez came in there and basically try to play both of them, and he was just a double agent. And the thing is, the natives should have never
So
agreed to.
hold on. I just for the audience, like, what do you mean by he was a double agent? Just so they know what you're talking
Well,
about.
for what I can recall on history, well, um, correct me if I'm wrong, but Cortez went up in Mexico and he uh he negotiated with the indigenous people, right? Up in there, but in reality, he was actually, you know, actually betting for the Spanish to actually do whatever they're gonna do. But then he was gonna try to backstab the Spanish for the indigenous people after he got exiled or whatever the case is, and then he just went there and still, work with the Spanish to take over the indigenous land. That's what I remember. Is that kind of correct?
So I get what you're saying. I think, and I'll look over this after this is done because I'm not my
I could be wrong. I could be wrong. So that's
It,
what
I
I
think
remember.
what occurred was he specifically went against the orders of, I believe, who the guy who was the governor of Cuba, and he cemented himself in such a way in Mexico in which, like, he had no choice but to essentially conquer Mexico and make a name for himself in that way, or else he was looking at, betrayal charges under the Spanish Empire, which,
Yeah.
resulted in death. So he
Um.
was in a very tense situation there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My just my opinion on that. I think that the indigenous people should have never even agreed to anything. I understand.
Well, sure, I get you that you believe that, but like,
Yeah.
my guess is, why do you think many of them decided to do that? That's my question.
I have no idea. For what I can remember, I haven't studied this in a while.
Sure.
For what I can probably remember, the native people were very inviting people. They weren't as violent as certain
So
people
hold
might
on,
want to
hold on. What do you
say.
mean by the native people? Because, like, here's the thing: when you look at the accounts that occurred, they had radically different interactions depending on the tribe. Like, certain tribes were extremely hostile right off the bat and just always were. Others were cautious at first, but then made contact and would do things like trade. And then others would even approach them and, quickly, build a positive relationship. And my only point here is that the see, I'm not a big fan when you go over, like, when you try to radically oversimplify the history of, like, things
Yeah,
like the New Spain, because in a lot of ways, you unknowingly, in my opinion, you start to push talking points that actual, like, white supremacists push. And what do I mean by that? I can explain. White supremacists, I've learned, and this was a big thing in me, kind of, a lot of times having shame in my Indian ancestry, which I'm not proud of, but they kind of like tell you this story that the Indians were just kind of like these helpless victims. The Spanish came and they just, like, raped them all, and, like, that was, and they conquered them very easily. That's not actually the case at all. You see, it was very complex. All of these different tribes had, like, very particular agendas and scores that they wanted to settle with, other tribes that they've had for a long time. And I think when you try to oversimplify, this history and kind of claim that, oh, like, we're just the byproduct of rape, it does both our Indians and our European, or basically our Spanish ancestors, a disservice, because that's not the actual story of what went on. It was so much like, the Indians were extremely advanced people, very complex people, and like, the Spaniards didn't come to America and view these people as, like, not human or, like, not civilized. In fact, you can actually read, like, stuff from, like, Bernal del Castillo, I believe, and, like, Hernan Cortez in their writings. They actually viewed, like, the Aztecs and the Mayans as insanely impressive and accomplished people, and that there wasn't this idea of, like, white supremacy. Now, you've said this before, and you're actually correct. The Spaniards did, in a lot of ways, have, like, this sense of, like, ethnic supremacy, but it was not overtly racial in the way that Anglos, and mostly after the American Revolution took place, kind of, like, took place. Like, the Spanish were more about, um, Spanish sort of, like, ethnic supremacy than like just generic white supremacy. Do you know what I mean? It's just, my point is, like, I just don't think it's very good to just generalize history. I think honestly, just my opinion, and you can correct me if this is a bad idea or not. I think we should try and, on these Hispanic shows to bring in people that are, that have spent their whole lives studying this, like historians, like of Latin America, and, try to get the full picture, because we really do Indian ancestors a big disservice if we think they were just stupid people that just, weren't able to, defend themselves and just got raped. Like, no, actually, there's tons of situations where, like, the Spaniards often got their ass kicked by certain, like, Indian tribes that were extremely advanced and, like, had their own complex military systems. Like, that's the sort of stuff that I mean. It's just like, I just don't want to build a narrative and tell our people that, we were just these helpless victims, when in reality, if you look at, for example, when Hernan Cortez captured the Aztec Empire and defeated it, he didn't just do it with, like, a few thousand, like, Spanish men, and they had, like, magical white people powers that allowed them to win against the Aztecs. It's not even close to what happened. He made very smart tactical alliances with, other Indian tribes that felt like they were being genuinely oppressed, and, horrible things were happening to them for many years as a result of Aztec imperialism on them. And, they decided to, convert to Catholicism and marry in, and create a new race along with the Spanish. That's my point. I mean, I just think that we really shouldn't just be like, oh, it was this simple. Like, we need to do our people a service and, try to really pick into all the nuanced history, because this is very fascinating and important stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry for the rant.
No, don't worry about it. It's fine. I was expecting this. No, what I was gonna say is that the we can't we I think it'll be a disservice if we don't actually speak on what the Spaniards did, because if we want to talk about racializing certain things, yes, they didn't racialize it. They had this ethnic identity,
Yeah.
and with this ethnic identity, they did have a caste system, which certain privileges and benefits will go to the caste system that they perceive to be worthy, and the rest, it will trickle down to the point where at the bottom of the totem pole was these people didn't get anything. So at the end of the day, that is just another way of saying either white supremacy. That's just another way of saying that.
I wouldn't say so, because these people didn't have a like, if you talk to a conquistador, and you ask him what a white person is, he's going to be like, "What the hell are you
Well,
talking about? I'm not white.
think,
I'm Spanish."
I think you're getting stuck on the word white when I say white supremacy.
Well, it's important. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the systematic practice of oppression. So if we're talking about a caste system, those are systematic practices built on for oppression. The lowest person is not going to get anything. The highest person gets all the privileges, benefits, and set-asides. So that's the definition of what a caste system is. Going up in the totem pole. We cannot negate that. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, I totally get it. But my sort of, like, thing that I would argue here is that, you know, this was a time period, the 1400s. We're talking about people that are insanely tribalistic, just all across the board, and not just the Spaniards. You can read, luckily we have, the Aztecs were so advanced, they had, very detailed writings that, many historians have looked through throughout the years. And, a lot, you had Indian tribes, if, when you read their writings, and a lot of white nationalists have no idea Indians even, like, had, like, written language. Like, they think they were just dumb, which is so fucking stupid. But, you can read their own writings, and, these people, like, groups like the Aztecs, they viewed other Indians as, like, just, as dirt. It's just like, yeah, we're ethnic supremacists too. My only point is, this was a time period on Earth, a very, very long time ago, 14 and 1500s, where people are just very tribal. It's just how it is. But there were some ways in which Spain kind of, like, did some innovative things in terms of, like, trying to get past some of that stuff. And what I mean by that specifically is, for example, out of all the major European powers during, like, this specific time when colonialism started to catch on, it was the Spanish crown that basically put into law, and this was the first time it ever happened in any European country, where I believe a black conquistador if he was, able to prove himself in battle and help the Spanish Empire, he would be allowed under this new law that was passed by the Spanish monarchy to he would be allowed, if he could prove himself to be like, a Spaniard, a genuine Spaniard, he'd be allowed to marry a woman from Spain. And, his children would be these mulatto children. And obviously, we get that, we don't want to go by caste systems today. But my point is that a lot of this stuff was very new. These were very tribalistic people. And in a lot of ways, they were attempting to be a lot more inclusive of other people than certain other empires that were more focused on just let's
Right.
extract as much as we want out of them.
Right. I just because we could point out to one outlier and say, well, they did something very progressive doesn't really mean anything. To me personally, that doesn't mean anything.
Sure.
Just we can also point out the same thing in America. There was one black person that was given a pot of gold. You know what I mean? That
Right.
doesn't mean anything to me, because at the end of the day, that one black person that proved himself that he's a Spaniard and now got with a white woman. Oh shit, big fucking deal. Still there was millions of people that looked like him that was still subjugated, that was still enslaved, and they were still being forced to look for gold. And if they didn't find it, they'll have consequences. You know what I'm
Oh, I mean,
saying?
yeah, early on in the Spanish Empire, there were definitely,
So
horrible
so so
atrocities that
no,
took
so that's
place.
what
I
I
agree.
so yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, just one outlier. Yeah, there's gonna be definitely some incidences of one outlier. Even in America, there's been some black slave owners. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, it happened. Pointing that out doesn't
Although
make.
most of the black slave owners were just people trying to buy their own family members, to be fair.
Yeah, yeah. But at the end of the day, pointing out a black slave owner doesn't negate the whole systematic oppression that still occurred and still benefits to this day.
Sure, sure. But here's, in
My
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 opinion, hold on real
my
quick.
thing.
Here, I'll
Wait,
let
hold
you
on,
go. My
wait. My thing is that um even if you go to Spain, and I've read forums, I even
I've been to
have
Spain.
had some oh, shout out to you, had some screenshots based on these forums that I've read, uh and there's videos on this and everything. The majority consensus is that majority of them don't see us as distant families. They don't see us as distant cousins at all. We're the
So, do you have
only.
any like? Are you using like studies, or are you just talking about like found stuff you found on Quora? Like, I just want to make sure people understand what you mean.
Besides the things I found on Quora,
What
these
other
are
things?
these are interviews that I've actually listened to, political facets of Spain, people just basically saying that people from Latin America got dirty blood, sangre sucia, the other things about anti-immigration of Latin people. There is a big anti um anti-racist immigration thing, protest that happen almost every other month, or whatever the case is, that happens in Spain, because these people from Latin America get discriminated against. So if the Spanish actually see us as distant cousins or connected family, all these other Latin American people who do go over there, who open up businesses and stuff, should not be getting discriminated from, should not be getting treated differently if that's the case.
Right. And to be fair though, I mean, mass immigration in general is just, in my opinion, it's going to inevitably lead to resentments that just weren't there in the first place. And like I can say
Yeah,
this firsthand as a Colombian, with a Caesar Chavez, or not Caesar Chavez, Hugo Chavez,
I was about to
and
say, I was like, what?
Maduro. I'm a social. I mean, I'm nice. I'm not a socialist technically anymore. I'm a more fourth positionist. But I have sympathies towards these sort of like
Yeah.
socialist strongmen. But I have to admit, people like Chavez and Maduro, they weren't competent leaders. They screwed up
Oh
economically.
shit! Hold on, hold
You're
on, hold
fine.
on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Oh god damn, it's my phone. Well, give me 1 minute.
And yeah, I'm gonna keep talking here just to fill in the time here. Yeah. just because
Sorry about that, bro.
no,
That
you're
was
good, you're good.
no, sorry about that. That was we're gonna have to wrap it up in 15 minutes, okay? Because I'm gonna have to really take this phone call. Is that cool? We could wrap it up in 15 minutes.
Oh man, I was hoping maybe a little longer, but I mean, if that's all you got, that's all you got.
I could probably stretch it for 20. I could probably stretch it for 20. Let's do 20 minutes.
Okay, that's fair
Okay,
enough.
all right.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry about that, bro.
No, you're fine, you're fine. So, my point was with yeah, so I've seen situations where, as a result of this horrible mismanagement of Venezuela, and a lot of refugees from Venezuela have come to Colombia, and they get treated like absolute crap as well. But it's just
Yeah,
like, I don't think it's necessarily just like this horrible racial thing. It's just like people, mass migration creates a lot of resentment, in my opinion, unless they're moving somewhere where just no one kind of already lives. But
yeah,
to my point though, and again, I'm not a huge like obsessor of like Spain. Like I have a lot of Spanish ancestry, but I have a lot of Indian as well, and I'm happy of both sides. I'm proud of what I am. But regarding whether the Spanish politically view us as people that are related to them, I would just say that sorts of, like, me personally, it was a few Spaniards that helped get me out of like not being racist. Like, believe it or not, like these were people that saw what I was doing online, kind of like reached out to me privately and were like, dude, why are you believing all these lies about like, your people? Like you're not a rape baby, dude. They would say things like, look, um, these are your Indian ancestors. They'd ask me like what tribe I'm at, and they'd be like, look, you can read
yeah,
all of this about them. These were very advanced people. Like, these were very cool. Like, you should honor these
yeah.
people. You shouldn't like dislike them. And at the
Again,
same time, they're
I just wanna say I don't hate the
no,
Spanish,
no,
you
no. I'm
know.
not saying you do. It's just you're
No,
kind of like,
I
yeah,
wanna just make that one thing clear. I don't hate the Spanish. I don't see the Spanish as this huge, a totalitarian type of a force where we constantly gotta look at, you know what I mean? There's some things that they actually did that we still use to this day. You know what I mean? There are things
yeah,
that they brought to our country. That's something that we have to be real about. You know what I mean?
sure,
The
yeah,
the only thing that I'm against is sucking up to them. That's the only thing I'm against. Don't suck up to them. Why suck up to them? If every Hispanic says that we're triracial, why only suck up to one part of your triracialism or whatever the case is? You know what I mean? So the thing is, because of that, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be the opposite of it. You know what I'm saying?
I
Majority of the shit that I say about the Spaniards, majority of the shit, I just say that just to piss people the fuck off. To be honest with you, I'm keeping it 100% with you. Majority of the shit that I say, I just say that just to piss people off. Do I really care if they were eating people? The Spanish were eating people? No, I don't give a fuck about that. But I say that just to piss people off. You
I
know?
get it. The only thing I kind of wanted to say though is like, if you study Spanish politics, kind of like how it's gone down like in the 21st and 20th century, you had the Spanish Civil War, and that kind of led to what you saw afterwards. But what's interesting about the dynamics of the Spanish Civil War is
That
there
they
were
rape
people.
they rape the people.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. It was But there were people on both what was considered the left and the right side who
Yeah,
considered themselves to be very much pro Hispanidad and wanted to create,
yeah,
they wanted to have a stronger relationship again with the rest of the Hispanic world, and not just the right wingers. But what's interesting is, if you actually study the right wingers too, like for example the Falange of Spain, for example, these people were openly saying that, one of the top Falange leaders was even quoted saying, like, on the topic of Latin Americans, he said, they are us and we are them. And kind of like, our
mm,
destinies are kind of coinciding with each other. Like, a strong Latin America is going to benefit Spain, and a strong Spain is ultimately going to be better for Latin America. And that was the kind of like point they made. And like Francisco Franco himself, they call him a fascist. Here's the
mhm.
thing what's very interesting. Now, he wasn't really a fascist at all. He was more just a kind of like Catholic ultra traditionist, I would say. But,
Okay.
Franco also held these same sort of sentiments. Like he wanted to unite the Spanish-speaking people of the world under like a unified bloc that could hold its own against Europe and the United States. And he didn't just believe this; like he acted upon this and tried to do this as well in practice. Like Francisco Franco, when he saw that the Cuban Revolution occurred, he reached out to Fidel Castro in Hispanic solidarity and helped play a huge role in making sure that Cuba was able to have a very strong trading partner in Spain for many, many years. And, that's the sort of thing that I'm talking about. It's like a lot of this stuff is, we
Yeah,
don't have to set up to
listen.
Spain. Yeah.
Listen. I understand. There were certain Spaniards that fought against the Spanish people. In these countries of revolution. You know what I mean?
Well,
I
what's
get it.
interesting is that during the revolutions, these were overwhelmingly led by white criollos, right? These were often like Spanish descended people
for
that wanted.
independence. Yeah, independence of the country. I'm not oblivious to that. I totally understand
No,
that.
no.
You
But
know
what
what
I
I
mean
mean?
is what's kind of ironic is like Venezuela is a particular case example of this that I know about specifically is the criollos liberals who were trying to break Venezuela from Spain. These were people that were highly inspired by the racist authors of the American Constitution. In fact, a lot of times they would even like they directly copy, like they tried to copy the Constitution exactly the same from these people. That's how inspired they were. And my point is that you would have these openly very racist white Venezuelans who were trying to break off from Spain, while the actual like Indians who were not fans of the new sort of like Anglo-inspired like racism that these criollos were pushing for, they were the ones fighting on behalf of Spain to not break off. So my point is that I think that a lot of people glorify these revolutions that occurred to break off from Spain. And I'm not saying Spain didn't have problems. Obviously, these revolutions were successful for a reason. But my point is that a lot of these people that were fighting for independence in Hispanic America were very racist, like liberal types that often held views that were extremely racist compared to Spanish, like sort of like monarchist types or people that supported that sort of thing. But yeah, I want to just
Of
jump on
course.
a few other things real quick before we end this.
Yeah.
Real quickly here. All right, give me a second.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that I kind of just this will be the last thing we talk about here. So you kind of have this you're very pushing strong for like a black and I guess Latino unity. That's kind of
Yes.
been your thing.
Yeah.
Um,
I've been a very strong component on that. There's certain people who are against that or against me for that, but that's fine.
right, yeah. And I believe that like the reasoning that you kind of laid out was that like Black Americans, in your opinion, they're much better at politically organizing than Hispanic Americans, and that
Yeah, that's pretty much my main thing. Yeah.
so here's kind of like my main point of contention here on why I think this is a faulty premise to
Okay.
base wanting to do this sort of thing. And I'm not saying we can't work with other groups to, for mutually beneficial stuff. I just don't think we should only be open for blacks. We should look for whites and other groups as well that are willing to help us as well and work with us. Is kind of like I don't believe actually that blacks are that very good at political organizing. Let me explain what I mean by that.
Okay,
It's
go ahead.
that
You racist? No, let me start.
no. It's not racist at all.
I'm playing. Go ahead.
But if you look at a history of black activism in the United States following immediately after, the Civil War, Reconstruction, and then, slavery, or not slavery, segregation subsequently after, you see this constant theme where, these activists who were the most prominent among Black Americans, these were people being propped up by, people who you'd consider to be white Anglos and white Jews. Like, and we have, like, that's just a fact. Like, we can't deny that. Like, for example, like, how many Black people do you think started the NAACP, Radical Latino?
I think that was a white-run organization.
Yeah, I mean, yes, they were white Jews. They were white Jews that started it.
I don't know about the Jewish part, but I know that was a white-run organization. So,
They
So
were
yeah.
definitely white Jews, and they said that they believed that they needed to it would be a good thing to work with other marginalized communities, is how they kind of like framed it. Now, here's the thing: Marcus Garvey was actually invited by Du Bois to visit the NAACP headquarters and ask, kind of show him around. Garvis wrote down personally in his memoirs that he visited this office and he wanted to leave right away because he was like, literally everyone here is a Jew. And and here's the thing. No, he literally said that. That's the thing. I didn't say that. He did.
No. Just the way you said it was kind of funny.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
but my point is that too often there's been this constant theme where, to me, it just seems like, the white elite that exists in America they handpick the black leaders and organizers, and they make them participate in what I consider to be an illegitimate electoral system. And I don't think that participating in electoral politics is something that benefits any race, let alone Hispanics or blacks or whites, because it's very controlled. Like, it's billionaires that run this entire electoral system. They're the ones that fund these ethnic activist groups for the most part. There's some exceptions, but the most prominent ethnic activist organizations are funded by corporations, funded by white elites. And they're the ones that pick the front men, so they can put black people, they can put Hispanic people out as spokesmen. But I care more about who's putting the money in. And unfortunately, all that I have seen regarding the past with black activism specifically is just a constant theme of we're just going to pick people who are going to just repeat what they want. And often what would end up happening in these situations with desegregation was these leaders would be told by their the white elites that they were working for that, look, we know that you are focused primarily on economically uplifting the black community, and for obvious reasons, of course, that it's important. But these people would push these black leaders in a direction where they would make them care more about trying to desegregate, often poor white neighborhoods, instead of actually focusing on, economically trying to fix the community by actually getting effective legislation passed that would help both poor white and poor blacks. My only point here is, I think, I'm not against like groups kind of like forming together, but we have to, in my opinion, we have to really like start being super critical of these organizations that claim to represent our communities, but they're funded by like Amazon. Because it's like, no offense, if these billionaires are throwing money at a Hispanic or black organization, I'm not expecting them to do things that are ostensibly going to benefit normal families. Like, I think they're going to push for things that tend to be very decadent and bourgeois. Like, a lot of people complain with like the Black Lives Matter stuff that they were focusing on things that were just very bougie and things that very appealed very much to just upper class whites, and not on actually fixing genuine economic problems that are, have been hitting the black and Hispanic and white working class communities super hard. What do you think about that?
Yeah. What, can you hear me? Can you hear me better?
Yeah, you're
Can you hear
fine.
me?
Yeah.
Okay. No, my some reason my headphones died and now I'm using my AirPods. Okay. I've been silently critical about the Black Lives Matter organization,
Yeah.
not the slogan, but the organization as a whole.
Yeah.
Um
Because it's funded
the
by billionaires. I mean, that's just the fact.
Yeah, recently Tamir's Rice mom came out, and I've been meaning to speak about this. Tamir's Rice mom came out and been very critical, rightfully so, about Black Lives Matter and how they are getting billions of dollars, but none of it is going to none of the families nor to these communities. Most of them is going to Democratic run organizations and power packs.
Yeah.
I think the last time I checked, Joe Biden got $2 million, and that was from Black Lives Matters Power Pack, in donations alone. When
Is this like
George
a
Floyd,
super PAC, you mean?
yeah, a super
Okay,
PAC.
yeah.
When
Gotcha.
George Floyd passed away, there was I forgot there was a website. Anyway, there's a website that tracks donations. When George Floyd passed away and all these riots happened, Black Lives Matter got probably 200,000 donations. Just on their website, they got 200,000 hits on donations. We don't even know how much the number is in money, but to be honest with you, none of this is going to none of the black community to help them out. Now, Black Lives Matter is not a black run organization. We have to keep that 100% clear.
No, not at all.
It's a white run organization. Some people might say Jewish. That's cool.
I mean, it's white and Jews. It's not just literally all Jews.
I'll say just white because I haven't seen anything about Jewish, but you could say Jewish because George Soros is a board member of the organization. So all right, maybe. But I digress. So it's not black run. So in reality, whenever something happens to black folks, their Black Lives Matters in the forefront, doing all this hoopla and all this protest. Let me ask you a question really quickly.
Sure, and just so you know, I'm going to cut it real quick because I just want to give you a really quick proposal after the broadcast that I think you're really going to like.
Okay, not a problem. Yeah. Let me ask you a question really quickly. Have you gotten to some of these protests, these Black Lives Matter protests by any chance?
No, and the reason why is just because I feel like there's so much shit that could go down that you're just better off just staying home.
Gotcha. Okay. So I've gotten to three. Obviously here in New York City, right? The first one I went to was very odd, and that's me being nice.
Yeah.
It was very odd, and this is why. The majority of it was white folks with shaved heads and pink hair beating drums, right?
Yeah.
And having these people chant Black Lives Matter, this and this and this. And I'm watching these white folks and I'm like, Becky ain't gonna do a goddamn thing to help out the black community. She's gonna go right back into her Fifth Avenue apartment,
into her gentrified apartment that she got blacks kicked out of.
Exactly. Into her gentrified apartment that has a doorman. You know what I'm saying? And these black people that she's taking photos with is going to go back to the Bronx, in the projects. You know what I'm saying? Or
and if they didn't have smartphones, if they didn't have smartphones to take selfies, they wouldn't even be showing up.
Exactly. So just because she's taking photos of black people and she did it in black and white. Oh my God, look at that. Oh, how artful. It's very hypocritical. And the reason why I say that is because one of the white women that I met there, she was an art student and she was taking photos of the protest. And she literally showed me her portfolio, and it's all throughout that whole time. She's been just taking pictures of black folks in black and white. And her thing was to actually send those photos so she could get a job in a magazine company.
Oh, of course. Yeah. A lot of this is just career timing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Of course. So I saw that and I said, you opportunist motherfucker. Right. So I'm like, wow, that's kind of crazy. So again, I've been to three, and again, it's been really, really weird because not only is it weird on some of the people up in there, but when these marches are moving, actually moving, shutting down certain streets, moving, I'm just going to say it's 30 or maybe 35 people, right? These marches are moving. Mind you, there are bicyclists cutting off certain avenues so cars won't pass through so the marches could go through. NYPD is literally a couple of feet away with their undercover cop cars just following the marches, right?
Yeah.
On top of that, there's at least 2 or 3 people in suits in the march with suits and sunglasses on, just looking around. So to me, this is not a grassroots march whatsoever. It's something that's paid.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's AstroTurf.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So mind you, I was there organically.
Yeah, you just
And
wanted to help out the community.
yeah, and I'm looking around and I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't look organic whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? To the
Absolutely,
point,
and I got to
to
wrap this up real quick.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, to the point that I even approached somebody and they approached me telling me that, hey, our next meeting is this and this and this, and you know, if you wanna be part of some of these protests, you know, it could be beneficial for you. That's all they said, which kind of raised my antennas, but I didn't really want to pursue it too much. But let me just say really quickly about your black and brown unity thing. Black and brown unity, the reason why I am for it and I go for it so hard is because the same problems that happens in the black community happens in the Latin community. You know, the same things that we went historically with black folks, the same thing that Latin people went historically also. Yes, there's going to be some outliers. I totally understand that. But at the end of the day, we are still being targeted and seen by white supremacy as a second class citizen, and we are being treated as such because whenever black folks get targeted, the next one up is Latin people, you know. And the reason why I don't agree with uniting with other groups of people is because they're already established in their power structure. They can be allies. I'm not against white allies, Asian allies, Arab allies. I'm not against that. But if they're not coming in here to actually has to help out specific issues that's happening to black and Latin people, then I don't want them around.
totally get it. And I think that's really good. Lightning round, though, just for the audience, my audience specifically, in case they're
Gotcha.
interested. Name some authors that you think are crucial for understanding, like kind of like the worldview that you came to, real fast.
Well, Rosa Clemente, she is a Puerto Rican activist.
Okay.
She wrote a book. She actually wrote plenty of books. Definitely go check her out. Also Mexican Excellence. Shout out to her. She wrote other books. I actually interviewed her. I don't know if you know who she is.
No, I haven't, but I mean, I'd love to
Um,
read this stuff and hopefully interview these
yeah, yeah,
authors
yeah.
one day.
Mexican Excellence. She is a Mexican Chicana that lives in California, and she has been very like prevalent on the whole indigenous movement in California within Mexicans. So go check her out. Also to understand white supremacy a little bit more. I'm not gonna say doctor, but Neely Fuller Jr. Go check him out. He wrote a book called The Compensatory Cold Word Action. It's all about how to understand white supremacy. And one of his quotes is, if you don't understand white supremacy, everything else will confuse you. So that, I think that's a very important, impactful quote. And I think that's very beneficial for us. Another one will probably be look at some of our, you know, leaders in the past that actually did something like the Young Lords, how they actually came up. Look at their history. Look at some of the talking leaders that were actually there. You know, study them. Lolita Labron, also study these people, study these Latin activists that actually started something, not only here in America but also crossed over to, you know, Latin America as well. Study these people because I believe they will give you a better insight and understanding on the systematic practices that occurred.
That's awesome. Yeah, I appreciate it. You know, I think no one's ever asked for books from you. So, yeah, I'm going to end it right here.